Hey, Spuddies, Potato McWhiskey here, and welcome back to Europa Universalis 5, where we're playing as the Malian Empire. Now, there's a really important thing that I want to talk about in this episode, and it has to do with government spending stimulating the economy and how it's modeled in Europa Universalis 5. And it's very important, especially with regards to this building that we've just about unlocked. I think we're a few years away, based on our monthly research progress, from getting access to the counting house. Now we're halfway through the Age of Discovery, so we unlocked this really late, and it just mostly has to do with our positioning on the map, because some of the early institutions tend to spawn in Europe, so they take a little bit of time to get down here to the Malian Empire, so we're kind of playing catch up. But the really powerful thing about the counting house, okay, is that, first of all, where do I even begin? Okay, first of all, it is built in your cities and towns. Which means it's going to provide burger jobs. Burgers consume a lot more resources than peasants, which makes them more valuable for stimulating your economy because they will increase the demand for more consumer goods and a larger variety of consumer goods, which will overall improve the economy, improving the profitability, because we get to tax the goods that they purchase. Now, the second way that this really helps us is that the counting house will increase our crown power on the location. So each location on the map has a sort of political power distribution. And then once you calculate all of those political powers, that goes on to dictate the power of the estates in your country. Right now, we have a variety of estates. I think the three most important, or rather the four most important for us, is the crown, which represents the government or the player, the umara, which represents the sort of regressive nobles who want to enrich themselves, the ulama, who represents sort of the clergy and the priesthood, and the burghers, who represent the city folk. You do have commoners and tribes and dhimmi, depending on the religion and type of culture you're playing. But the big four here are the crown, umara, ulama, and vangara, the burghers. And so a total political power of our country is calculated and then distributed to the population. And the big thing about the crown power, right, is that the higher your crown power, the more benefits you get, right? So you could see here, I'm able to get more money from trade. My buildings are cheaper to maintain. This is going to be really important when we start talking about the counting house. Just a whole bunch of really positive effects. It makes our estates happier, which means, because the happier your estates are, the higher you can run tax without them rebelling. You can see here, a plus 1% happiness equilibrium for the nobles means I can tax them 1% more, which will get me a little bit more money out of them. Okay, on board with that, you understand? Now, one of the biggest negative pressures on political power for the crown is actually local control. So local control has a whole bunch of negative effects, right? So it means we can only access a certain percentage of the tax, like in an area, right? So like the potential base tax in this area is 7, but because control is only 60%, we can only access 60% of that. But importantly, this has a minus effect on our crown power, alongside a whole bunch of other effects, right? You don't get as many levies, you don't get as much manpower, all that sort of stuff. And the counting house, from a political point of view, right, if you really think about what the counting house does, it effectively adds, with regards to politics, a 33% boost to the crown power of a region. Now, for our capital, where we have 100% effective political control, that's a 33% increase, right? It's a 1/3 increase in the amount of political power we get from this location. For somewhere where we have, zero control, it's an infinite increase in the crown power, I believe. Now, I'm not entirely sure the way the math works. I don't know if they multiply with each other. If they do multiply with each other, then it just modifies the local. But if they are additive, then in locations where you have 67% control, it's a 50% increase locally in the political power of the crown. So I'm not entirely sure how the numbers work, but basically what I'm saying is, if it works multiplicatively, building them is just a 33% increase in your political power wherever you can get them, which has a lot of positive downstream effects. Okay, that's one way it really helps your country. It also adds burghers who consume stuff, increasing your tax rate, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. If it is additive, it is a massive, massive political power boost, in particular along like this sort of political power superhighway that we've built to Timbuktu. Now, the second part of that, the second way that this building stimulates our economy and makes us more powerful is that it actually stimulates demand in the economy for a variety of goods like paper, books, gold, and tools. Now, what's important about that is the way that building maintenance works in the game. So if I open up a building here, let's just go to the Royal Court, okay? So the Royal Court costs 0.58 gold per month to maintain. We are effectively creating demand in our economy for this number of goods, but we're only paying at base 20%. The tooltip keeps disappearing on me because I keep mishovering, but we're only paying 20% of the cost at base. And the higher our crown power, that actually goes lower. So right now we're only paying like 18% of the base cost. So effectively, we're paying 1/5 the cost of these goods to generate 100% of their demand. And that demand is then, fulfilled by things like our gold mines, which we then tax at our effective tax rate, whatever that ends up being, right? Like, so we've got 136 tax base here. We're ending up at 42. So we're getting about just a little bit under a third of the tax rate here. So as long as our effective tax rate is higher than our maintenance cost, we've actually positively stimulated the economy. And your effective economic stimulation rate is based on your crown power. So a building that stimulates the economy and increases the power of the crown is going to supercharge our economy. So that's why we're basically beelining this. So hopefully that kind of explains the general principle behind what's going to happen in this sort of transition phase of our economy. We could expand our gathering industries. We could sponsor religious art. We are currently, what level of spiritualist are we at? We're 41% spiritualist. We could get it a little bit higher. Higher spiritualism is really nice for a couple of reasons. First of all, you convert population faster. Second of all, you get more clergies. Higher clergy gets you more research. And tolerance of the true faith does mean that population that follows your faith will be a lot happier. So there is a really big advantage in pushing for spiritualism. So I am tempted to sponsor religious art because it will boost our spiritualism. On the other hand, I could fund farming estates and build a bunch of farms with all my money. I think I'm going to save money for the counting houses in a few years. I'm going to be holding on to gold for the foreseeable future. Yeah, okay, so I tell you what we will do. We could do market regulations, which would improve our trade efficiency, which is effectively how profitable your trades are. It's only a 1% increase, but that's pretty damn good. It would also give us some trade advantage. You know what? I'm going to conduct a census to get that population growth. And if I lose stability, I don't mind. Let's see if we can push this through. We have 16% support. We could do the autonomy movement. We don't want to lose centralization. And I don't want to lose legitimacy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bump up stability for a few months so that the loss of stability isn't a big deal. And hopefully that population growth has positive downstream effects. Okay, so we've also just unlocked a brand new important building, and this is the Armory. So the Armory, for most nations, mostly operating in Europe, this is going to be one of the first times that you're able to directly generate manpower. And it demands, again, remember, think about this government stimulating the economy thing, right? It generates firearms, leather, cloth, paper, and weapons demand. These are all resource industries that you can produce and tax and benefit from, which is fantastic. So another really great way to stimulate your economy while also increasing your military capabilities. Amazingly, we just got a bunch of random parliament support from events, so we actually are going to pass this pretty comfortably. So we will get positive stability, so I no longer need to keep investing in stability. I'll just select all my armies and tell them to carpet siege this rebellious group. We'll let that handle itself, basically. We successfully conducted a census, which will add a nice little bump to our population while also boosting our stability, which is great. High stability can eventually be spent on revoking privileges from our estates. Okay, perfect. We won the war. Let's disband our levies. And then I think what we'll do, I had a threat on Sokoto. So let's follow through on the threat here. They're allied with Bonaman, who's supposed to be my tributary. This might be an opportunity for me to kill off some of my vassals here, actually. So let's declare our war in Sokoto. We'll raise all of our levies again. We'll kind of let time traverse for us. We'll group up all of our military units in our capital before we kind of begin the proper swarming of our enemies. So right now we could take a loan of 600 gold for pretty tasty interest. That's not too bad. Yeah, so that would require us to pay back 800. I just wanted to test out that. I burnt, 200 gold in interest. But that's fine. Let's grab all of our armies and set them to reinforce. And then we'll move our army out with the purpose of taking out our vassals. Let's see. Morocco is attacking Genoa, Aquila, and Milan. I will accept the offer to join the war, even though there's not much I can do with the war. I'm very much so a land power, and I've designed my country to be a land power. I have very little interest in the way of like expanding beyond my borders, or rather like navally. I'm happy to expand into Africa in particular because we look at how well we traverse the territory here. It's beautiful. Okay, we're going to attack this army stack. We don't have a whole lot of professional armies, but neither do they. So we don't need one. We don't need a big old professional army because we can just we can nail them. Let's see. So this is Ouagadougou. I'm tempted to just eat them up. Let's occupy them and then just devour them. I think we're at that point in the game where we can just happily devour our neighbors. How much political war score will it cost? Okay, I'll cost a lot of war score to eat them up. I will just integrate the terrain myself. It's fine. Perfect. And we will annex their vassal, charge them a bunch of money. We'll wait until they're fully captured, which should happen pretty quick. Beautiful. There's banking. So now we can take out a lot more loans for a lot less interest. 6% interest is not too bad, honestly, considering you start at 10%. 10% is grim. Okay, they're basically fully occupied, so we just need to wait a little bit until they feel completely and totally defeated, and then they're going to be willing to accept our peace offer. Yeah, I made the decision to make them into tributaries all those moons ago, and I really wish I hadn't. Vassals would have been far better. I could have just slowly integrated them all. But instead, I had to be awkward because I wanted to play around with the game's mechanics. Yeah, I don't see a reason to make someone into I do not see a reason to make someone into a tributary over ever just like not making them a vassal or a fiefdom. I can see the argument for vassal over fiefdom because I think you get like extra prestige from a vassal that you don't get from a fiefdom. So that one I can see. Morocco wants to improve our cultural opinion. That's actually fantastic. That's beautiful. So Songhai have declared independence. We'll handle that. We're probably going to be dealing with a bunch of rebellions over the next little while. I think I accidentally set the speed when war starts to medium. I'm going to set it to, yeah, I think medium is fine. Hunt down this enemy army in order to murk them. Boom, that should be them dealt with. We took 2,000, we dealt 2,000 casualties. Claimed 2,000 souls. All right, let's go ahead and annex Ouagadougou because I have a pain in my ass with them being a tributary. I have no more tributaries, which is great. Let me look at the integration of this land. So when I'm out of war, I might turn this back into a subject of the correct type. Bonaman here, I'm going to annex them too, because I think, yeah, there's nobody nearby where I care about the antagonism. Nobody can stop me in the local area. So there's no reason not to just take them, basically. Now, can I full annex Sokoto as well? That would be absolutely swell. Yes, I can. Perfect. Okay, perfect. So let's distribute the spoils of war here on this land that we have. Oh, because I'm at war, I can't. Right, I need to deal with the Songhai rebellion. That's fine. And then also the war with Genoa needs to wrap up. That's fine. That's fine. I definitely feel like if I had a second run at Mali, I feel like I would do a lot better. Because I've learned so much from playing as these guys about some of the game's mechanics and like how dangerous it can be to start mass colonizing land. It's one of those things in particular. Songhai, I want to annex you, steal all your gold. Boom, done. So now we just need to wait for this war to be done. I'm going to disband all my levies. There's no point in keeping them raised because I'm way too far away to even begin to deal with this. I don't even have a real professional army. My professional army is 100 dudes. You know what I mean? It's 100 sofa infantrymen that I'm keeping around purely so that I can spend money on army maintenance to gain. You get army tradition from having army maintenance raised, basically. That's it. An army tradition is useful for, land progress, etc. So there's minting threshold. We're one more tech away from counting houses. Minting threshold is useful because you can mint more money without generating inflation, which is really good for a country that relies so heavily on gold. us, Mali. That's us, by the way. So we've talked a little bit about this urban superhighway that we're building and the purpose behind it. I think I'm going to continue it a little bit here. Basically, I just want to visually follow the river. The river map mode would make this a lot easier. But you follow the river and create a bunch of towns along it. And the idea is rivers will increase the development. But also, if you can turn them into cities, will also allow canals and bridges. And bridges will make it so that proximity can travel down rivers easy. Is kind of like the point here. You know, if you look at this, proximity cost going downstream a river is like as good as a late game road. So rivers are like roads. Something you need to consider when you're doing your imperial development. All right, let's get to work integrating these new provinces. I've decided I'm not going to bother with vassals because I'm just stuck in war. So I'm going to start integrating with all of my council members to get these territories that we conquered integrated. Oh, and here we go, counting house. So first of all, we're going to be focusing mostly on the Niani market. We want to filter by burghers, and then we want to make sure that we build counting houses in every single location that we can inside this market. So one of the things we need to consider is we have this downstream river going this way, but we also have a potential downstream river starting at Tabu. If we follow it, it goes all the way down to Rosso over here. So this is going to be another one of our urban highways. So now the counting house does cost a lot of masonry and glass, but we have a lot stored up, so it shouldn't be too bad of an idea. There's a few important things we need to tackle inside this area. One of the things we would like is to get an extra government reform. The cultural influence isn't a big deal, but the government reform is huge. Extra cabinet seats is massive. It allows us to do more actions. Expected cost of court, incredibly useful. Again, a lot of our expense economically comes from the expected cost of court, although we have managed to pull that down to a much more reasonable level, to where a lot of our costs is now diplomatic spending and colonies and stuff like that. But this is still going to be one of our biggest drains, like passively. So if we can bring that down, it'll be really, really good. So that's going to be the tech order for now. So one thing I'm pretty sure is you can't propagate control through these corridors. I'm pretty sure you can't. So in these little island areas, it might be worth it to build bailiffs on these desert islands, basically, because they'll provide local control, yada yada blah blah blah. So before counting houses, we had about 34% of the crown power. After counting houses, I'm hoping that we'll start to see a huge political power shift. Oh, we are starting to get control Sao Nicolo here. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Brilliant. I think it's time that I would like to move the market from Arguin to Rosso. We've got all of our counting houses coming online. So we're going to also begin the canal superhighway. Basically on anywhere that has access to a river, like anywhere that visually touches this river is where we want to build these towns. With the idea being that we propagate urbanization along rivers, because that's where people like to live. And Venice is pretty heavily colonizing here. That's going to be a problem for us in the long run. We might have to accept this in the short term. What will be nice about it is that they will spread their institutions into our market pretty well. So it's a bit of it's a poison chalice, right? That's the way I want you to think about it. It's not ideal, but it's not all bad for us. So if we go to Arguin, I wanted to relocate this market. How do I do that? I forget. Relocate market. Yeah, requires a little bit more cash. Possible government reforms is big. We will handle that tech advance in a moment. First, we want to relocate Arguin to Rosso. Now, Rosso will be the center of this market, which will shift the positioning of certain resources and things in my economy a little bit. But the advantage of having it here is we can go ahead and downgrade Arguin, which was part of our plan as well, because we want all of these coastal locations here to be fishing villages. And the reason we want fishing villages is because we want that passive naval presence, right? And you get naval presences from fishing villages here. So we just subsidize fish production all along this coastline for the really juicy maritime presence, this green stuff here, that will make transporting goods a little bit easier and moving stuff out easier. Now, it is better to have stuff be towns, But towns require a lot more maintenance, they're a lot more expensive, and this terrain isn't very good for towns, right? It's like, sure, it's coastal, it has some positive benefits, but it's also desert, which means it really sucks for certain things. It's hot, arid, which isn't exactly great. Like, it's fine, but better to have the town down here where it actually has good vegetation, good population capacity, and we keep these as like little rural fishing villages. So speaking of which, I want to look up fishing villages, and starting from Rosso onwards, I want to make sure I max those out all along my coastline. And then I also want to make sure that I'm subsidizing all of the fishing villages along this coastline, because even if they're not making a profit, they have benefits, right, in the form of sailors, maritime presence, and trade capacity that I do care about, that makes it worth it keeping them around. So I'm going to make sure that I'm subsidizing all the fishing villages along here because it's strategically advantageous for me to do so. And then I also want to make sure that I have bailiffs. Now I want to switch to building map mode, and I want to be on it's now the Rosso market. It's a soldier building called the bailiff. Don't need peasants. We can't afford it. Need to wait a month or so. Yeah, but basically I want to build bailiffs along here because it's going to be very difficult for us to project power here over the course of the game. Like you can see like the gap between the extent of how we can extend control versus what we're getting from our bailiffs over here. And it probably will be good for us to extend a bailiff network up into here because that little bit of control is very useful, plus it stimulates the economy, so on and so forth. Expanding the gravel road network isn't bad. I do want to develop the interior because we want that land progress. If we can get all the way to land ideas, we'd be in really good shape. I'm okay with lessening the levy of the nobility. We kind of don't need to rely on levies quite as much anymore. We also need to handle that government reform. So let's have a look at what some of the options we have here. There's a ton of options. So royal commissions would be sick because it would get us more centralization. The more centralization drift you have, the more things that cause decentralization you can get. Like Privy Council plus 5% tax efficiency. That's fantastic. Royal decree is awesome because it's crown power, but the satisfaction decay is pretty rough. Aristocracy, max literacy, aristocracy, individualism, asymmetric warfare is cool. We've got diplomatic capacity. Expected diplomatic spending minus 10%. That is, or minus 1%. That is effectively minus 10% because our diplomatic spending is expected to be 10% of our country. So minus 1% is a 10% reduction in the cost, right? So that is a lot better than you think. Innovative and outward from espionage. So innovative is fantastic. If we can scale up innovative, it's a lot cheaper to embrace institutions. We get more cultural influence and we get more maximum literacy. Right now, we're at 48.09 innovative. So having more innovative basically means the floor of what our innovativeness will be is higher, and we can sort of tank more traditionalist modifiers. So this one is pretty good. Plus outward, we can focus on inward, which is all about crown power, cultural tradition, control, but it comes at the price of colonial migration. Whereas outward gives you a lot more colonial migration, a lot more diplomatic capacity. It reduces your antagonism, but it does make your cultural tradition a lot weaker, so you're more easily influenced. Now, the advantage of outward is right now we are focused pretty heavily on inward, mostly because of tradition here. So changing the feudal de jure laws would be nice. If we go to law change, feudal de jure laws, if we switch to by blood, we would start progressing to outward. I think because we want to do like a lot of because we are doing the colonization, it might be good for us to switch towards an outward view. However, inward isn't bad because it does come with that really big buff of crown power and monthly control. But that monthly colonial migration is painful. So I think we're going to go for outward. I think having interactions with other countries is good. So I'm going to ask my parliament here. Well, I kind of want this to go through. How much does it cost to change a law without using parliament? So if I wanted to change the feudal de jure law to by blood, it would cost me 89 stability. I think it's okay to lose a parliament here to get the feudal de jure law to be by blood. I don't mind quote unquote losing a parliament. Ooh, transportation code does make it cheaper to build roads. That's quite good. Trade office network is great. Trade range, more peasant levies, but more free people. I also do like the idea of plutocratic ethos. We're pretty heavily bent towards aristocracy right now. Personally speaking, I like this number to be at 0 because I don't necessarily want the burghers to be really strong. Okay, aristocracy is good because you get the discipline, but the expected cost to court is really expensive and the plutocracy saves you on that. But I like it to be hovering around 0, but also better parliament base support is really strong. Colonial expansion is really good because it gives you extra colonial rage and a little bit of outward. There's a lot of really good ones in here that we need to think carefully about. Privy Council is great because tax efficiency is one of those modifiers that's like super powerful. Royal decree is great, but it does mean that positive effects on our estates like drain away really quickly. I think I'm going to go for Black Chambers here, helping us with our spy network and getting positive outward values will help us with colonial expansion over time. Saving up money so I can build my urban highway from Niani to the coasts. Okay, our cabinet has finished integrating some territory. Let's go ahead and integrate some more territory. We'll go by population size. Bono is next. So yellow is the easiest level of integration to reach. We want to reach green. Dark red is colony, which just doesn't really have negative effects. So we failed to develop the interior, which hurt our stability. That's fine. We can prevent annexation in Benin. I don't really care about that. I'm kind of focused on cleaning up my territories. All right, let's start the annexation of Guirico here. I'm going to start building a spy network in this guy so we can attack him. And I'm going to go back to spending more on diplomacy. +1 cabinet seat, that is magic. We'll be able to get a new cabinet member. We'll get a young member of the royal family. And I will use him to integrate some territory. The advantage of using a young guy is it costs money to appoint people to the cabinet. So using a young guy means you don't have to appoint people as often. You just put him in there. And as long as he's not utterly incompetent, he will get the job done. Perfect. Some of our colonies are finishing up, which is beautiful. We may want to consider opening up a few more colonies now that some are finishing and we have a ton of surplus cash. But we also have a lot of economic investment we're going to have to do over the next while as we unlock new buildings and stuff. Okay, perfect. We annexed Guirico. Our political power of the crown has reached 35% thanks to all the counting houses, but also our GDP should have jumped up significantly over time. It has been kind of static for basically a century while we waited for institutions to reach us and focused on colonization. But now the true urbanization project can begin. So expected cost of court reductions. This is fantastic. We're now down to only 12% of our economic base being invested into maintaining the court of our country, which is really a lot less than it was for a while. So another building that can stimulate our country is going to be the university. So we definitely want to unlock universities. Let's go into the age of Renaissance. We definitely want universities. I would love to get plus 10% crown power. Chanceries, if I recall correctly, are good for literacy in the capital. And they also provide cabinet efficiency. So it's a good building to unlock. Let's see here. Rights of the nobles, we don't care about. Some of these things are nice down here, like having better disease resistance. They're just not like super important right now. Especially when you consider like we could get colonial and trade range. Here's like less inflation and gold output. Like that's insanely good for us. Docks are really useful because they will give us more sailors. Harbor capacity, all that sort of stuff. When we decide to start shifting towards a bit of a naval power, population capacity is really useful for pop growth and migration and all these sorts of things. Population promotion speed is really useful. Pound lock canals are going to be massive. This is the building that I was talking about. It can only be built in buildings that are a city, or in places that are a city and that have access to a coast, a river, or a lake, and has at least 20 developments. So pound lock canals are going to be a big part of our administrative expansion. So we're going to pick that up as well. Then the entrepot is a building, I think that can only be built in market centers. Let me just double check. So it provides market attraction and trade capacity. It can be built in any urban location, so cities or towns, and it has to be a market center. So yeah, it just provides trade capacity. So it's just a better trade building basically. So we'll want that as well. We'll queue that up. And then once all these taxes are done, we will investigate our situation. Okay, there's a couple of places here that also need to be towns. Let's upgrade them. And then we need to follow the river all the way to the coast, because our hope is to eventually build canals along these rivers. You are on a river, right? Yeah, river flowing through. You have that modifier. We just need to save up a bit of money. Now, what's good about this is it's also going to work on shifting the demographics of my country in kind of two important ways. It's going to increase the amount of burghers that we have, which right now we just have a really small amount of urbanization going on. But also, towns and cities tend to be places that people emigrate or immigrate to. You can see here, these like red lines that are appearing in my country, they're where people are immigrating to and from. And generally speaking, you can see the lines are heading towards cities and stuff. Cities tend to have a higher migration attraction. But the wonderful thing about cities is that they have a much higher capacity for trade and literacy. So if you thought we were a trading power, it's about to get even crazier over the next little while. I'm going to save up a little bit of gold before I start mass building markets. One thing I will need to consider is making sure that I have a lot of masons. Masonry is the resource that is primarily used for expanding buildings. So it is good to have a lot of masonry production throughout your urban locations. So you can see here inside Niani, we have a huge masonry surplus. Let's go ahead and increase that surplus. We want to look for locations that are cities and towns inside, not this market. I want to go to the Niani market. I want to make sure I subsidize all my masons because cheap brick production is important long term. And it looks like brick production here in Niani is actually pretty cozy. So now I want to take a quick look at glass production. So I don't need to actually expand my masonry, at least inside my capital market. I'm going to lock glass in too. We have a nice surplus of glass. So let's build a few buildings, get those glass guilds inside the Niani market. We are subsidizing them, which is great. We could create a really nice glass factory down in, what's this? Dierabieco. Okay, we'll subsidize this. We'll just max out glass production in there. That'll be a nice long-term way to secure the price of glass. Now, tools. Listen, we don't talk about tools. Okay, so this is going to be a huge building as well for us to unlock, which is the university. We're probably not quite ready to start building them, but we definitely want it because of the maximum literacy that it provides. Right now, we still need to sort of build up the first layer of our economy, which is going to involve building markets inside the Niani market, wherever they are available. So let's just make sure we max out all these markets. I remember the reason that we build markets is for, if I can show you what a single level of a marketplace does, it increases your trade capacity, the number of burghers, and it also provides a baseline demand for goods. Remember, we only pay a small percentage. We only pay 1/5 of the cost here, so we can stimulate like crazy our economy while also having a massive amount of trade. So generally, just really awesome. So building up marketplaces inside our capital market is going to give us a huge amount of trade capacity. Although which means more goods flow, more burghers. Remember, burghers demand more goods than other classes, more goods than peasants at least, which is kind of the relevant point here for us. Now, the surplus of masonry, we can help that out by building a bunch of granaries, which again, granaries are a great way to stimulate your economy because yes, we're using up 3.6 masonry here, but that creates demand for our masons, making them more profitable, less unprofitable. And sure enough, we pay the money to maintain these granaries, right? Like if you look here, I'm paying 0.5, gold, but I'm really only paying like 18% of the actual cost. The other 90% or 80 what percent of the value demand in my economy is being just freely generated. And also the extra food capacity is resulting in population growth. More population means more goods and demands and services and more power and everything. So granaries are just one of those really good ways to stimulate your economy alongside markets, which is why now that we've built all of our markets, I'm going to type in GRAN, and wherever we don't have maxed out granary levels inside our sort of urban superhighway, I'm going to start just cranking out my granaries. It'll take a couple of years for some of these buildings to be built, and that's fine too. We do have a severe tools shortage. We will need to deal with that. I'm going to create a handful more colonial charters on our like adjacent territories. Yes, it will be expensive. No, it's not that big of a deal. It's mostly just so that we can fill in that land because it mentally bothers me. Yes, plus 10% crown power. Beautiful. We're up to 36% crown power. Num 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 num. A wave of granaries are finishing. And the nice thing about granaries is they also stimulate your economy just a little bit because they replace some of your peasants with laborers, and laborers demand slightly more goods. It's really not much. It's just a very, very slight amount more. But even so, an economy with more laborers will generally have a higher tax base or GDP than one with a lot of peasants. Tribesmen are the straight up the worst for goods demand. Maybe second only, maybe even slaves are better. I don't know. In terms of like GDP demand. So now that the granaries are online, there's going to be another good that we want, and that's going to be literacy. What's nice about the library, again, it provides jobs for burghers. They demand a lot of goods. It's going to allow pop promotion speed, cultural influence, literacy, institution growth, has all of these wonderful downstream effects. And right now we're primarily focused on developing the Niani market. And you should actually start to be able to see the effect of my sort of urban superhighway on the literacy of my country. The proximity effect will also become more obvious in time. The control effect, oh hello. Adamawa declared war on Borgu. That's a interesting decision on your part, Adamawa. Let's go ahead and raise all of our levies, and we'll gather them up in the center of the Malian Empire. And then we'll send our army over here to deal with the enemies. I wish I knew how to get to all markets are shown. Oh, remove market filter. Perfect. Beautiful. We can now get another level in our chancery. So I'm going to pop into Niani here. It's a urban building. Yep, burger building. So that's going to create more demand for goods. It's going to employ more burghers. It's going to give us more literacy here. So we'll build the chancery. I think the university is a clergy building. So we'll build that in the capital as well. We'll get that literacy pumping. It's nice to see that we've got 100,000 population in the capital. The maximum capacity is nearly 1 million. So we should see a lot of growth. And our army has made it to our enemy's locale. Yeah, Adamwa is going to have a really bad time. All right, let's drop a parliament in Niani. Promoting the integration process isn't terrible. Supporting the state is pretty good. Crown power for a few months, plus our king would get a boost of stats. He's pretty old, so it's probably not super important for us to do that. Promoting the integration process is nice. Fortification works would lower our fortification maintenance, so yeah, I think we'll go for castle works. It's nice to have that cheaper castle stuff. And we can address some of the Ulama spiritual retreats, torpedoing their political power. Ooh, opportunity to boost outward. Why are we going so hard towards inward? Oh, no, that's how much we are towards inward. Yeah, we could boost outward. Look, I do like that. It does cost legitimacy, which is going to be very expensive. That's fine. Okay, perfect. There's merchants and trades, the latest advance. That's going to boost our naval, colonial, and trade range, which should mean that we can reach out and grab more goods. It'll have nice downstream effects for us, which is good. All right, let's annex Tenko to go. Let's start their annexation. We've got a few pieces of land that we need to annex over in this area and sort of make the Malian Empire a little bit wider. Now, Morocco is sort of colonizing over here, which I do find slightly irksome. Let's have a look. Okay, so we have a severe shortage of tools in this market. The balance is crazy. So let's have a look at our tools guilds. And it looks like the real issue is iron. So we'll start pumping some iron production, because the lack of iron is making tools hard to produce. Let's grab Zazao plus Zamfara, South Zazao. I just want to grab as many of their locations as I can in a peace deal. Can I fully annex them? No, not quite. We can get close. We can get really close to a full annexation, so I'm just going to go ahead and take that from them. I did not expect Morocco to get a chunk there. That wasn't the plan. And that's fine. We might have to come to blows with Morocco. We'll see. Who's stronger, actually, between us? Yeah, they were a lot weaker than them. I think they have a lot of professional army. Yeah, they have a huge they have a huge army. Might not all be professional, but we will eventually take them on. Okay, we stimulated our economy through masonry production. So you can see the price of masonry has crawled up a little bit. I'm trying to think, what's the next phase of stimulation? We built all the libraries, in particular in the Niani market. Definitely we need iron. Let me have a look. Can I find iron? Iron's a problem for us, just as like a material. We need all of the iron that we can get. So let's start dropping bog smelters. I'm going to subsidize them all because we just need all the iron. And probably the coal is expensive too. Yeah, it's a little bit expensive. That's fine. Okay. Bog smelters are on the way, hopefully providing supplies of iron that we otherwise didn't have. Got a huge deficit of iron. It's very expensive. Yeah, it's almost 50% more expensive than normal, which is a big problem. Yeah, the Niani market trade capacity is at a very nice level. I'm going to try and do as much importing as I can to support my economy. Perfect. We annexed another vassal, inheriting their land. We're going to continue annexing. I don't want to spend 20 stability to declare war on like a 3-province minor. It's like, whatever, dude. What we can do to bump up our base tax is mass expanding our RGOs. And that's going to be something that we wait a couple of years till money stacks up, mass expand RGOs, hopefully get a huge bump in our base tax, all that sort of stuff over time. Another thing that we probably want to do is look at some of these places with natural harbors and build trading ports. Like, for example, Sine Nagayen here. It's a farmland, coastal region. This is like classic case. Oh, wow. Classic case of should be a city. Also has a river potential so that we could canal deep into the land towards Niani. So this is a premium location for a city. There's also a good port city over here at Beardun because of its great harbor potential. We're probably going to want to build a bunch of fishing villages along this coastline and subsidize them for the purpose of maritime presence along the coast here. You can see maritime presence. It's not we don't have amazing maritime presence, but for a land empire, it's okay. It's okay to not have amazing maritime presence, but we would like to have a little bit for trade and stuff like that, because some of our trade does actually go over ocean. If we take a look, we click on Rossi, you can see a significant amount of our trade is going through these ocean tiles, whereas like Niani is mostly land. There's a little bit going through. So it is still good for us. It might even be worth it for us to build a small navy for that purpose. But right now we just need to increase our economy. There is distant markets giving us even more trade range, which is going to make our lives a lot easier when it comes to getting the goods that we need, because we're able to reach markets that we otherwise wouldn't be able to. Now, RGO buildings, bog iron smelters do use charcoal. I think those are important enough to subsidize a few. Yeah, I should probably lock in coal as a good that I pay attention to. So let me do that. And you obtain coal through wood with the charcoal kiln, right? And so then we have a sort of economic loop of coal is used to get iron, iron is used to get tools, tools is used to get lumber, and lumber is used to get coal. So these goods sort of form a closed loop that we want to have a lot of. And as far as I'm concerned, in the mass expand RGO builder, as long as the profit is above 10 gold per year, I'm willing to click this button as many times as possible. After that, I don't click it so much. Another way to do it is to say you're not fully expanded RGOs with a location control of at least 50% and a market access of at least 50%. This will tell you areas where you're going to get at least 25 to 50% of the value of the RGO that you build. And so that's all of these areas. You can even fine tune it if you want to get more, all right? You can up it. If we add these filters, you can see we have really high control here. Let's say if we pull back on the control down to 60%, we can see, oh, wow, let's build all these. There's lots of different ways that you can like filter and decide upon how you're going to do things. High control, generally speaking, is going to do a lot for you. Perfect. So we finished integrating Wa. So we can continue to integrate new areas. I'll work on Zazu next. Got that nice, beautiful yellow color. We do want it to be green eventually. We accept yellow for now. Right. So yeah, we've seen a significant increase in GDP since the stagnation of waiting for institutions to appear. We've also seen a significant increase in our crown power, although it's starting to fall back again because we have a lot of areas with low local proximity, and as a consequence of that, low control. This huge area here, like other parts of my country, are generating political power. You can see here the nobility is getting 12 political power. I'm getting 0 of the political power here, which is a bit of a problem, right? So we definitely want to integrate. We want to spread our knowledge and curiosity and all these sorts of things. And if we can, actually, we probably want to move our population around. Now, we're still building the urban superhighway. It is a slow process to build this, and we still have a lot of goods that we need to worry about in our various markets. Our mass builder of RGOs is getting down to the 10 gold per year mark. So probably building RGOs isn't a particularly effective way for us to increase our economic power. What would be far more effective is to focus on getting burger jobs. And in particular, if we could get some universities, like we have a university in the capital here. If we check the nobles, their literacy of the Mandika nobles is really quite high, thanks to the combination of universities and stuff like that. And in fact, if we check the average literacy here, it's at 31. So we want to get that literacy up, and we want to get people moving out of these rural locations, moving to these urban places. Now, one of the problems we have with some of these urban places is that we're at the building limit, which means the cost of buildings, if I can show you here, the cost of buildings is going up and the migration fraction is going down, which means that the amount of population that we can convert here is lowering significantly. So yeah, basically Niani has reached its potential. We need to plug some stuff into Daira Bakoro. One thing we can do to make Niani a less attractive place to migrate to is actually to build more unsupported building levels. And what that will do is it will make it less attractive a place for people to move to, which has its own advantages and disadvantages and stuff, but can be useful. So let's make sure we max out our lumber mills, our masons, all that stuff in here. I'm happy to overbuild a little bit. Probably this is a good place to build my armories too, because this is the location I'm going to get the maximum amount of manpower from. So building armories here to create a baseline demand for the goods that armories consume in my economy will also increase the total GDP of my economy. Now, I am basically feeding gold back into my economy to increase demand and yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. That has its own negative effects. And basically, it's kind of like handing a fiver around and saying GDP increased by however many times the fiver changed hands. But it does actually... Oh, okay. We got trade fleets, we get maritime presence. It does actually downstream have positive effects long term on our economy. Because we're not just handing a fiver back and forth, we're handing goods back and forth. We're consuming goods, we're creating demand, we're creating jobs, we're creating, all of those things. Okay, so we've just finished annexing Busuma. It's wonderful. Probably don't need to annex any more people out this way until we start projecting a better level of control out here in the form of stuff. It might be worth it for us to consider moving or deleting the Bago market. I wonder, maybe do we want this to be coastal or something, or near if we look at Niani, right, there's that big river of stuff. Maybe we want to put markets along this main river because we basically want to control all the way out to here. So that's eventual #goals, right? So let's see. So we've got complaints about copper. We can move towards traditional economy or gain legitimacy. I don't care. I'm just going to leave that the way it is. So we've got 6 armories queued up in the capital. This is going to create a bunch of jobs as well for soldiers, which is good. Soldiers are just like peasants that have they have 1 or 2 extra demands. It's converting people to soldiers isn't a very efficient way to increase the demand in your economy. I do need to take a look at the effects on mysticism in my country. So freedom of interpretation. We need to figure out a way to get more jurisprudence. Let me have a chat with my ulama. No, maybe I need to talk to my dhimmi. So I can upset my clergy to get some jurisprudence, which feels worth it. So let's grab that. Let's also see if there's something we can revoke here. Local land rights is fine. That's jurisprudence. Maximum tax, lighter taxation. I might cut that privilege. We don't have that many dhimmis, so it doesn't matter if we upset them. I'm happy to leave them with the Pact of Umar. We have jurisprudence there and humanist. Yeah. Is there any more things we want to implement here? Any useful? Tolerance is good. Maximum tax for nobles is kind of interesting. Promote tolerance is useful for heathen beliefs, but I think we'll leave that as it is. We do need to get rid of tribes. It's going to be a process. Let's check here. What do we have? How happy are our commoners? They're getting maximum taxation. There's nothing else we need to pass there. We definitely want to look into revoking stuff from the nobles, but we will hold off for a little bit. Okay, sick. We can do a parliament. I'm going to do a parliament in Niani. The gravel road network is cool. Ooh, expanding the armory. This would get us a bunch of armory relatively cheap, but it's not necessarily something that we need right now. Sponsoring religious art. Sponsoring noble art could be good. This would move us towards aristocracy. Market expansion acts are useful. Tempted to go for the Market Expansion Act because that will make our burghers happy. Supporting the state is cool. I think we'll just go for the Market Expansion Act. We didn't have a particularly good one. We can torpedo some of the political power of the ulama by addressing the spiritual retreat complaints. We can support the aristocracy, which will cost us a lot of money. So we have by tradition. Right now we have by blood, and we want by blood because we want to drift towards an outward leaning perspective because we want that monthly colonial migration because we have a ton of areas that we could do colonization of. So I think that's better. Sure, I'll support the aristocracy for now at the cost of some legitimacy just so we can make sure the parliament goes through. I had an event that lowered my thingy. Mondo wants to ask for gold. I decline. Absolutely not. If anything, I'm going to siphon gold from you. In fact, I want to enforce my culture and religion on my vassals. So like Borgu, Oyo, we're just going to force them to become my religion, which should lead to them starting to convert. Yeah, they're working on the conversion now. Perfect. And that'll just make the land easier for us to integrate when the time comes down the lane. Looks like Spain is eating Portugal, which is kind of hilarious to me. You go, man. Like, that's crazy. All right, sick. We just unlocked Pound Lock Canals, which is really good. I also think we finished integrating somewhere. So let's begin integrating more places. Asante here has like 148,000 population. So we'll work on integrating that. We definitely need to get to work on like converting and properly integrating this territory. But right now, yellow is fine. +5 maximum control. Maximum control is being hurt pretty badly by the average satisfaction. I think once our legitimacy is maxed, we need to get rid of banal lordship because it's really hurting us. We only spent $3,000 on a university for this guy? Absolutely not. Okay, we've integrated another province. Let's keep the integration going. Work on Zamfara next. There's 147,000 people in there. There's the Russian merchants. We should start to see good trading from our merchants. Speaking of trading, I'm going to build marketplaces everywhere that I can along our trade network. It's fundamental to our ability to manage a large empire is this network of trade that we're building. Because these trade networks will allow us to move resources between our markets and obtain resources from other markets, while also increasing the total amount of burghers in our empire. We're up to 200k burghers. We need to get more of those. Let me quickly check the institutions map mode. So there's a bunch of institutions have also just become present in Niani. So we are going to need to think about embracing some new institutions soon. Now, these armories that I've built, they're going to be relatively expensive for a while. Even though we only pay 20% of the cost, the relative expensiveness of things like firearms and leather and all this sort of stuff, they're pretty expensive buildings, is the short version of the story. But we should make a lot of money on the downstream bonus of like gunsmiths. In theory, should turn a profit. We have a big problem in that we just don't have enough iron in our economy, no matter what we do, but hopefully trade will lead us the right path. What I really need to do is I need to see if Egypt will let me build trade offices. Morocco will let me build more, which is fantastic. We just get all that beautiful trade from them, but I don't understand why I can't build it in Egypt. Let's see here. One of these things has got to be a city, right? I don't understand what the requirements are, because a trade office, from what I remember, it can just be, the owner just has to like you, and it has to be a city or a town. So I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. Anyway, friendship with Morocco. Should I create more colonial charters? No, I think I'm hard fixed on building my trade economy up so that we can shift goods around. But yeah, these armories will be expensive, but they will give us a huge amount of manpower and also just create a baseline demand for guns in our market. Okay, we've integrated Bono. Let's keep integrating based on the highest population. We'll go for Nupe next. Beautiful. Take a while to be integrated. Okay, beautiful. We've just advanced to research the ability to build entrepôts. That'll give us market attraction and trade capacity. They're big, expensive, beautiful buildings that we're going to want to build. And we can build one in Niani. I think you're going to get one per location. I think it's a hard limit. But wherever we have a market center, we're definitely going to want entrepôts because they just give you a bunch of trade. Okay, let's have a peek at the Renaissance. On the cultural side of things, I don't think we need that. Well, national assemblies is a government reform. It does give innovative. It's pretty good. Stone output is useful. We don't care about art school or theaters right now. I mean, they are good because they give cultural tradition and influence and better skill of your artists. But yeah, there's more cultural tradition, rights of nobles, power projection, and these things are really useful, but we have to kind of prioritize because remember, we're super behind where everyone else is. So like unlocking bureaucracy would open up a new law, and then we could choose between a centralized bureaucracy or decentralized bureaucracy. The mercenary maintenance bank interest, we've got hulks. The bank interest could be useful. Encourage urbanization can allow us to promote POPs by network. 10% pop promotion speed is useful for converting our population. Rag paper is a better production method as well for paper. It uses cloth and wood. You can kind of do the maths on this. If you go to build a, what is the name of it? A paper makers guild, right? If we look at the production methods that are available to a paper makers guild, we've got, so leather, right? Or 0.6 value. So broadly speaking, the bigger the number on this end of the production chain, like it is better to produce 1 than 0.5. So these are always going to be better. But we'll do the maths on the 0.5 one just to kind of show how it works. If we're taking 0.2 of a good worth 3, that is 0.6 gold plus 0.2 of a good worth 1.5, which is, it's 0.6 plus 0.3, right? Which is 0.9 gold worth of resources. And we're turning it into 1 gold of resources. Effectively, the gold conversion here is the profit. The base profit of the goods, assuming perfect supply, is 0.1 gold. Right? Not a huge amount of profit. Now let's compare that to the hemp, the fiber goods, right? If we take 0.6 fiber and we convert that, so that's 0.6 fiber, so that's about 1.2 gold plus 0.3, so that's about 1.5 gold being turned into 2 gold. This is profiting at 0.5. So 0.1 gold profit versus 0.5 gold profit. Now cloth, on the other hand, is more expensive than fiber, but it takes less wood. So this was a 0.5 profit. If we take the cloth, so we take 1.5 plus 0.15, that would be 1.65 is converted. So this one is slightly less profitable, but here's the thing. It uses less wood, which makes construction and all sorts of things cheaper, and it uses cloth. Now, cloth is produced in its own spinners guild. Either the rural cloth maker can produce cloth from fiber, right, which is a very profitable trade deal, whereas the spinners guild makes this even more profitable, right? So you take a good that's worth 2.0, you turn it into a good that's worth nearly 3. That's like nearly a 50% profit. So even though technically making with rag paper is kind of worse, the advantage is it relies on a production chain that is profitable. So the overall sort of GDP of your country goes up, even though it's a slightly less efficient production. Like, so that's why you want to use rag paper as a production method. Hopefully that made sense. The long story short is rag paper is a better production method because it relies less on a good that is very in demand and more on a good that is easy to produce profitably. Hopefully that made sense. We definitely want to unlock bureaucracy and thirst for knowledge for maximum literacy. That's going to improve our research speed. I do think reclamation of land is good. I want to be careful about what I spend all my research time on because there's so many things here that we need to be careful about what we actually go for. There's only so much research that we can spread around. All right, let's go ahead and mass build more markets along our urban highway. Beautiful. Everything that's blue is our big, beautiful market lines. Something else I want to build is some infrastructure. So I want to make sure that I have all my bridges because bridges have two major effects on the economy. They stimulate demand of wood, stone, and tools, which increases your total GDP. It makes movement and proximity cost easier, which stimulates your control. And they set you up for your canal network. So you can see here, I can build canals in only cities. And the advantage of canals, again, if I show you here, is they lower the proximity cost. The food bonus, fine, it's not particularly important. But they also stimulate your economy in other ways. But it is the proximity cost that we care about. And the idea here is if we create a sort of city superhighway where we place canals along here, we can get the propagation of proximity to a very low cost, which means we can get the propagation of control to a very high level. And that will result in higher crown power and has a lot of downstream effects and all these sorts of beautiful things like being able to tax more and yada yada blah blah blah. So I want to look for we want to make sure we have all our markets along our trade superhighway. We also want to make sure we have our libraries. We definitely have a few of those we need to build along our trade superhighway. And we'll get all those under construction. And then let me look through some of these new cities. Oof, lack of iron. Okay, can I generate more iron? Let me see here. I'm going to do a bunch of bog iron smelting over here in my vassal territory. I just have such a lack of iron. My country is anemic as hell. I'm going to make a colonial charter over here when I have the money because I want to like thicken up my expansion. I might leave Dosso and Bourbon for the Moroccans, but I definitely want these colonial charters. Beautiful. There's plus 10% pop promotion speed. But you can see here, the proximity cost of moving from our capital to Dak Jalan is only 5 now, which is a crazy low amount of proximity to require. That's because of all the negative modifiers that we have. The percent-based modifiers are the big one. And that has downstream effects on the proximity down our river along every single one of these, getting us a slight more bit of the base tax into our coffers. So beautiful. Another colony just finished. This is Futajellan. This is over here. Provides us with a nice chunk of new pops. So I definitely want to build more counting houses across my empire because of the political power that they provide. They're relatively expensive though, so we'll need to wait. Glass in the Niani market isn't as strong as I thought it would be. Let me see if I can find somewhere with a decent amount of peasants. Probably going to be the capital where we will make some glass here. I'll unpause and I'll build like 6 glass guilds there. That's fine. Perfect. There's rag paper production. That should lead to a huge boost in the demand for cloth. And so now cloth makers guilds are going to be way more profitable. The spinners guild. So the profitability of this should jump up over time as we adopt the rag paper production method, because the demand for the input good, the hemp, and the demand for the output good have diverged. Or in other words, the input good has decreased and the output good has increased, so the average profitability is higher. I do love to see colonies finishing. We're starting to fill out our coastline. That said, I just pumped up a bunch of colonial charters and now we're spending 300 cash per month on them, which is it's a lot. Ooh, centralized states, we get tax efficiency and monthly control. And tax efficiency is always welcome. But I figure it's okay to start a bunch of new colonies because some of them are going to be quick and some of them are getting close to being finished. But we also now have the outward effect right here that's giving us a 20% boost to our colonial migration. So our colonies are going to finish even faster than they used to. So there is the new bureaucracy law, which is beautiful because we should be able to change that policy. We could be a centralized bureaucracy. Now, our centralization is drifting at 0.06. So if we take, monthly prosperity is super strong. So if we take a moment here to look, because if we can max out our prosperity across our country, it's a huge population growth boost. It's a huge development boost. The migration attraction and the character life expectancy aren't as important, but making roads faster to build isn't super nice. But the nice thing is about getting positive centralization is that it means we can take more decentralizing things. If we look at our prosperity, like the Malian Empire is just a beacon of prosperity. We love to see this. So I am going to go for the centralized bureaucracy. I think it's reasonable. The faster road building is going to be important. We are pretty close to unlocking the next tier of road. I believe the next tier of road is unlocked at the Age of Discovery. And we are pretty close to developing those institutions. In fact, we have them all in our capital. They're just radiating outward slowly. Promoting the state religion would help us convert our pops a little bit, which is not bad, honestly. So we don't have anything. Sponsoring university is nice because we would get that innovative boost. We're currently... This would allow us to jump up a little bit in the innovative sense of things. So I kind of like the idea of sponsoring a university. So let's sponsor a university. We can eat the serfdom penalty. That's fine. We definitely don't want to contain any institutions. So we're just going to wait and see if we can get through this parliament without having to give any more concessions to our estates. But the nice thing is +5 max literacy, beautiful. So we should start to see literacy increase, which will increase a whole bunch of positive effects downstream of that. Might not be so bad to unlock the rights of the nobles because we can choose how to set them up. A 10% spy construction is quite strong as well. And let's see, recruitment law would be useful. Plated knights, better regiments, let's go for that. Yeah, we'll just unlock a few of those because they're kind of just like available to us right now, and it's kind of getting a mix of little text just to keep us chipping away. Again, we're kind of in another colonialist phase where we're just pumping out colonies because it's relatively efficient for us to do so right now. Oh, I love to see another city that has maximum effective control. Boom, there's the university. Excellent. We'll grab ourselves just a little bit of innovation as a result of that. So we've unlocked the rights of the nobles law, which is going to give us some interesting decisions. If we go into our laws and we go to the socio-economic laws, the estate laws. So if we go to the rights of the nobles, we can curtail the nobles, blocking them from being a part of the cabinet, getting centralization, and improving the maximum tax, and even sucking out power from them. This will make them less happy. If we want to completely maximize, and I mean maximize, the amount of crown power that we get, this is the way to go. To completely curtail the rights of the nobles, supercharge our crown. However, there are some advantages to going with some of the other ones, right? You could strengthen the rights of the noble, which means the crown can't be a part of the cabinet. They get, satisfaction. You get bigger levies from them. They get some power. You can go for rural nobles, which makes them a little bit happier. They're a little bit more powerful, but way cheaper forts. This is super good. And serfdom, serfdom's not even that bad, right? Because right now, free subjects is great because it gives us pop promotion speed and prosperity. And we're benefiting a little bit from that, right? Our peasants don't eat as much food. They promote faster, less tax. But high serfdom does allow you to extract a lot of tax out of your peasants. So serfdom isn't bad. That fort maintenance is really, really nice because right now we have a decent amount of fort maintenance. We pay a lot for the troops and the abilities, and we can make that cheaper with fort maintenance reductions. Noble electorate is great for legitimacy. Now the problem we have here is that the satisfaction equilibrium for the nobles is pretty low. So curtailing them while improving the maximum tax and lowering their power. Long term, this is the way that we want to go to maximize the strength of our crown, but it's going to have some negative downstream effects on the amount of tax that we can suck, like we could siphon off from them. Okay, we finished integrating another state, which means we're starting to finish up with the integration of the variety of provinces that we conquered. Let's go for South Zazu next. That will take about 7 years to integrate. We've only got a few more integrations to do. Now, communalism, right, we could move towards communalism, but I think we want to move towards individualism. So one of the advantages of communalism is the higher estate satisfaction, which means more tax. But the big advantage of individualism is the faster pop migration, which means more pops migrating to cities and towns, because the faster that someone migrates, the more that they do it. And the army morale and navy morale is great. Now, that said, communalism is great for maintaining a stable society, but I think I'm going to go for the positive stability and the movement towards individualism. Eventually, I want my populations to migrate into my cities en masse as part of our urbanization strategy. The other part of our urbanization strategy is to just increase the raw amount of burgers that we have. And we do have about 250k now, which is about a 25% increase over the last couple of decades. But we do need more. We need more. And part of the reason we need so many more is because our trade income is just going crazy as a result of that. It's a beautiful thing. So we're integrating here. That'll be done in 1517. This one will be done in 1515. This one is 1516. I'm not sure where else we're integrating. Over here, 1516. So we've got about 7 years worth of integration left here to get this land to where it's not having the conquered effect, because conquered is really bad. You get a huge amount of rebellion, separatism, satisfaction penalties, all that stuff. Unintegrated land is not good, to put it lightly. So we should actually be able to figure out what the population growth is in our country, like how it actually mathematically affects us. So 49 people were born in Niani. So 49 people were born. The population growth rate is 0.53%, and the population is 112,000. So I'm gonna observe the population growth of Niani a few times so that I can get numbers that average nicely. Okay, it's been a few months. Let's have a look again. So same thing again. 49 people born. Population of 1112. Population growth was 0.53. So second observation was 49, 0.53, 112. I'm going to do another observation in a few months. I'm just going to let time pass. Just the idea here is that if we observe the data multiple times, we can come up with a more reasonable hypothesis. Oh, we got a recruitment law. So speaking of which laws, I think I did have another law that I hadn't done yet. Yeah, the education of the elites. So we could do education of the court, which will improve the max literacy. Education of the people will piss off the nobles and the clergy, but it will get us innovative and humanist. Mixed institutions would improve the literacy of nobles and burghers. I like the idea of education of the people because the average literacy going up is good. Open institutions would piss off the clergy. Theological institutions. I can't remember. What are the benefits of literacy again? Let me pop in here. So noble literacy, if we go to the Mandika nobles here. High literacy of nobles gets you cultural tradition and control boosts. Okay, like the rate at which you hit your maximum control. Clerics literacy gets you conversion and assimilation speed. Burghers has something to do with trade, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's development and trade, which is great. Laborers, I want to say it's production efficiency. Yeah, it's maximum RGO size and production efficiency. So that's great. Peasant literacy, I have no idea what peasant literacy does. Promotion speed and levy recruitment speed. The promotion speed is the big one there, because that's the rate at which you can convert your people away from being peasants. Soldiers gives manpower and fort defense, which is nice. Tribesmen doesn't do anything. Slave literacy increases their unrest. Okay, so in my head, the two most important people that I want literacy on are actually laborers and peasants, and then maybe burghers. I mean, the cleric literacy is nice too, but it's really all about the peasants and laborers, because higher peasant literacy means faster conversion to sort of more productive classes, and then higher laborer literacy means more productive everything. And so with that in mind, I do feel like that education of the people is really good, but this lack of happiness on these two estates could really hurt. Like, I'm already not getting that much tax from these guys, so it's rough. But then you throw in the bonus towards innovative, which already scales off literacy, by the way. Remember, innovative makes it way cheaper to embrace institutions. And humanist, very tempted by this. Is there another one that lets us do, we could do just mixed institutions, which is a bit of a compromise position. Open institutions is great for institution growth. Honestly, that actually might be really good for us. I'm going to go for education of the people because that's going to get us the most base tax over time. I think it just has the best effects on our country down the road. Okay, the population growth of Niani has shifted ever so slightly. 50 at 113. Okay. So this time it was 50, 113, 0.53. So we need to figure out how these numbers relate to each other. Because basically what I want to know is, how do these two numbers together, right, multiplied together, how do they lead to this number? So like, let's do a naive interpretation here. I'm going to pull up my calculator. So if I take 112,000, which is 100 and whatever thousand, and I multiply it by 0.53, well, it would be 0.053 actually if I was doing a real percentage, because 0.053 would be 53%, but I want 0.5%, so it needs to be 0.053. That would, so so if we take these two numbers, okay, if we take 112,000, okay, and we multiply it by 0.00, this is 100%, 10%, 1%. This is 0.53%, right? If we multiply this together, we get, and I think I already see the pattern, and it's per year. I can already see the pattern. This gets us 593.6. So the expected growth we would get would be this much per month. But if we divide this by 12 to get to make it on a monthly, so we take 593.6 divided by 12 would be 49.46666. Or in other words, this growth number is per year. And that's actually really useful for us, because now we know that this number, right, indicates how many new population we're going to get in this, in this city, / country or whatever per year. And you can see prosperity gets us a lot of pop growth. Cheap food gets us pop growth. Available free land, large food storage in the province. We have a huge food storage here, by the way. Like, we're getting nearly 1% growth every 10 years. Thanks to all the food we have, which is crazy good. So granaries, super good. I now have a much greater appreciation of granaries. There's no lumber in that market. Oof. Because over a long course of the game, that's a lot of pop growth from granaries, man. And actually, because population growth is somewhat scales off of available free land, population capacity gets you population growth. So even irrigation canals actually get you some population growth, which is quite powerful. So we can get increased urban attraction. Oh, this is big. This is going to be a huge urban swing for us. We're going to see a massive urbanization swing across our country. Like, we're going to see our pops moving very rapidly to urban locations. We finished researching aristocracy, which is going to get better levies for us. We do have a new cabinet position open. I'll put one of my royal family in there, as is the play and the plan. I need to make sure my king always has as many children as possible for the purpose of filling my cabinet with his progeny over the generations. So whenever you get a new king, you find some young wives, because you need people who are related to you in the cabinet. You need a constant stream of young bloods, and it does cost 100 gold to assign them, by the way. So that's why I like to choose young people. They're in the position for a long time. I don't have to pay the council tax very often. I'm really happy to see some of these colonies finishing, because I have so many, too many, one might say. Over half of my income is going to colonies. Or well, half of my government expenses is going to colonies, which is a slightly different statement, but similar statement. All right, we have so much inflation potential here. Yeah, let's print some gold, actually. That's going to help with our income. Okay, excellent. We now have better men at arms regiments. I think it would be good for us to start to get some of the dock buildings. So let me go into... We almost have meritocracy. Let me go into the Age of Renaissance, and I'm going to move over to banking. So I would like the dock. The bark has really good naval presence, if I recall correctly. I want this population capacity boost, so I'm going to research that. Also, expanding raw materials is nice, means it's faster. Then we may as well research a little bit, like get the bark for trade protection. Then it's probably a good idea to get the Hoofnies. And then the Slave Center is a colonial building that we can build in other countries. It might be good for us to have access to coastal forts and supply carts at the very least. And then from there, we'll leave those techs. And probably by then we'll have the meritocracy institution and we can start adopting stuff from it. Yes, another colony finishes. Restoring my cash flow. Let's drop a council in Niani. It could be good for us to do an expanded gravel road network or promoting the integration progress. I'm going to promote the integration progress because that's going to speed up the rate at which we can fully integrate our lands. I don't want to contain the printing press. I don't want to ever contain institutions. They're too important to contain. So we may fail this parliament. It is what it is. You roll the dice when you pick those things. Yeah, especially when you lose. I don't mind preserving traditional ideas. It's fine to make sure we get through the parliament. There are a few places we can or / should build roads, but I think mostly our empire is roaded up. Ugh. How badly do I want to promote this integration progress? It's 7 stability loss. I'm gonna just let it happen. I hope an urban parliament event happens. It might not. Ooh, so we got the Diwani script, which I believe is going to give us cultural influence and legitimacy. Excellent. Hoping for another one of these council events. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Oh no, we lose some stability. We gain support in council, but we lose stability on the same day. RIP. We still have such a lack of iron. God. So we can get a boost towards serfdom or towards free subjects. I have a preference towards free subjects because I prefer the promotion speed and food consumption reduction for peasants. Serfdom is great for certain reasons, but the pop promotion speed is just so good for a variety of reasons. One thing we should check out. Oh yes, there's the dock. Okay, excellent. 36%. It might be worth it to build more markets. One thing we definitely want to do is to improve Rosso here with infrastructure. So like we're going to grab ourselves some more marketplaces. We want the entrepot. We want the market warehouses. Let's get those up. So that's infrastructure. We would definitely like to get the scriptoriums and the universities and the madrasas. And then we want the dock. And probably because this is a market center, it's probably good for us to build a castle here. So probably like castle, dock, and the sofa barracks. It's pretty expensive to maintain. And it's only half as good as an armory. There's probably some way you can do the maths on this. Like 1.5 gold, that's 1.8 in total, plus another 2.4, that's 2.4 in total. So that's 3.5 gold per month to maintain the sofa barracks, or 3.5 gold economic stimulation from a sofa barracks at the cost of 1/5 of that, which is like 0.6 gold, versus the armory, which costs 1.5 plus 1.5 plus 0.3, so that's 3.3 plus 0.4, that's like 3.7. So yeah, this is I think this building is a lot more efficient, plus it can actually upgrade, whereas the sofa barracks never can. The nice thing about the sofa barracks is it can be built in rural locations, which is kind of neat. So in theory, we can drive a lot of military demand and have a huge manpower boost. The sofa stockade is fantastic for a variety of reasons. First of all, bigger garrison means harder to siege. Bigger fort defense means harder to siege, and unrest means less likely to rebel. So the Sofa Stockade and the Sofa Barracks combo, really good. With a castle, fantastic. Okay, so yeah, we got a bunch of infrastructure queued up here. I would like to upgrade Rosso to a city as well, because it is a market center, so I think we may save up to turn it into a city. I think that's a good idea. Oh, perfect, we finished integrating Zaz. We can now begin integrating a new place. We're down to our last two. We've got Borgu and Western Adamwa. We'll get Borgu underway. So Borgu is over here. That'll only take like a year, which is brilliant. And integrating terrain is really important because it will allow us to have higher control there, and control is everything in this game. Our entire goal is to maximize control. So integrating land increases the possible base max control. It's why we need to get rid of banal lordship as soon as we possibly can. And in fact, banal lordship is now public enemy number 1. So we need 74 spare stability, which means we need 84 spare stability to really tackle that. Let's start investing in stability to the point where we can't afford to anymore. Because I'm just sick of banal lordship. There's certain places nearby here that would be finished. The extra control is just so big. It's so big. For the places that say 0, it's an infinite increase. Beautiful. There's the protected harbor. We're definitely going to want to put that in some of our coastal trade centers. Do I want to give anything to the Ulama here, actually? Expansion? Well, I don't want to lose legitimacy right now. But there is this. It would be nice to have expansionist zealotry. But there's no need to do that because it's not even worth that much tax to tax the Ulama. The commoners is going to be the big one that you're going to get your money from for a long time. That and trade. I'm just thinking every time I see one of these colonies finish, it's more money I can put into increasing stability. And that means a step towards dismantling the nobility. Okay, beautiful. We finished integrating Borgu. Let's integrate the final outstanding Western Adawa. That should take no more than a little over a year and a half. So that'll be ready in November 1515, and it's currently April 1514. So not too long, a little bit of time. So the county of Guinean Coast has declared independence from us. My vassals, I have a huge vassal swarm. They should be able to handle that for me. It is what it is. Let them just do it. Perfect. South Zazu has been contained. I love that my 100 troops almost completely won this war. And it was completely an afterthought. So cabinet actions completed. We have integrated all of our territory to at least the yellow level. Now we need to start thinking about increasing it to the next tier. So this is where we're actually going to start using our council in a sort of combined fashion. The first thing we're going to do is look for maximum control increase, because the higher our control is, the more effective the conversion of tribesmen or populations should be. So we're going to start boosting control here. Fine, I'll raise a levy. Jeez. Okay, another integration has gone through. So one of the things you need in order to turn a piece of property into a core is it needs to be integrated, which we've done. Then you need the demographics to be I think it's either 50 or 60% your religion and 50 or 60% your culture. So you can see lack of control is devastating our ability to convert here, but mostly the integrated thing. So the best way to integrate a piece of territory is to actually assign a counselor to the job of assimilating. So we're going to begin assimilating right here. And now if I click on some of these pieces of territory, you can see the integration of the population here is underway. It'll take a while, but it will happen. And remember, when something is a core, you get a lot more control. The other thing is the satisfaction of the people in the location lowers your maximum control. And satisfaction is just going to be higher in places where your people follow your religion and are of your culture. It's just the way that it works. This is what's going to happen. So yeah, and this is why I forcibly converted my vassals to my culture and religion. Because if they're my religion, they will do the converting for me. Speaking of religion, let's see, subject actions break from union. We can enforce our culture on some of our vassals, which will allow them to start preemptively converting their population to our culture, meaning they'll become cores sooner. I have a lot of disloyal vassals, so I'm going to wait until this goes away before I do that again and enforce my culture on this whole section of land over here. But yeah, vassals are great for that. The leaders? Oh, violation of the Treaty of Burgos. Interesting. All right, let's go hunt down this little army over here. Oh, they enslaved my people. Administrative ability increased. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Ugh. I didn't have any vassals in the area, so I can't be as lazy as I wanted to be. Fine, I will raise a levy nearby. Okay, let's go ahead and annex the revolt or steal their money. Boom. That's them dealt with. We should be able to disband our levies now. Beautiful. Problem handled. I was just being lazy about it, which made it a bigger problem than it ever needed to be. I'm going to cut stability spending. I'm going to cut stability spending for a little while because we're ready to actually integrate meritocracy. Oh, sick. We're finished integrating Adamwa as well. So let's grab this cabinet member. And we're going to give him the job of converting to Sunnism this place. So now if we pop in here and we look at the bish bash, bish bash, bish bash, bosh, the integration map mode, you can see we're fairly rapidly converting the population here in the right direction that we need to. So we should see this reflected in the culture here. Let's say spiritualist. I'm surprised we're better at doing this. I guess the cultural influence is quite strong for us. Yeah, I've never done a pilgrimage. Let's do a oh, I can't afford it. Never mind. I'm so rich that pilgrimages are like giga expensive, which is kind of hilarious. Okay, gonna go ahead and do some mass expanding of my RGOs again until it's down below the 10 ducats per year profit rate, which doesn't feel very good to expand upon. So there's the bark. We do have barks now, and we just finished integrating Zamfara. So we'll use the final cabinet action to settle tribesmen throughout our country. And we should start to see any tribesmen that are hanging around in these areas. There's not that many. Well, should rapidly become regular peasants who are overall more productive and useful. But yeah, we've got all of our top guys working on this province here. All right, we've got another parliament. Let's call it in Niani. If we could boost our stability, that would be fabulous. The gravel road network, not so important. The armory, promoting a member of the burghers doesn't matter. Promoting the state religion is nice because of the missionary zeal, actually. So I think we're going to promote the state religion because we do need to integrate some territory religiously. I'm happy to reduce the opinion of some of my neighbors for parliament support. A tax exemption for the clergy who already don't pay much tax isn't a big deal. We could request additional taxes, which is crazy powerful because it gives you plus 25% max tax, which allows you to tax everyone to the bejesus. But we're not going to do that. It's not in our playbook right now. So we've unlocked Hoofnies, which is fantastic. How close are we to adopting meritocracy? We're not too far away, not too far at all. Just need to save up some cash. Meritocracy will be ours. There's missionary zeal, so we should see a significant increase in the conversion speed of people to our religion. Let's see our religious unity start ticking up nicely. Okay, we settled tribesmen in Saloum. This is kind of the area that we're working on integrating right now. So we're going to keep settling tribesmen. There aren't that many in these areas, but it is worth it to just kind of knock tribesmen, like just get them done. Then we don't have to worry about them. Get them knocked out, because once that's done, that's that. Right, we can implement meritocracy into our country at the cost of 2,000 gold and 20 stability. So let's go ahead and get meritocracy, because that's going to give us another 5% boost to our number of embraced institutions, which is going to increase our research speed. It's also going to open up some researchers all the way back in the age of traditions. Over here in the meritocracy branch, we definitely want 5% efficiency. We definitely want the literacy increase. That's useful. We definitely want tax efficiency. That's incredible. Trade efficiency is excellent. Let's have a look here. What else do we want? Legislative efficiency is really good. And the nice thing about researching these old researches is they're really cheap because they're from a previous age. I definitely want cheaper stability. Speed of integration would be nice. Power projection is really strong because it allows us to do things to other countries that they might not like without having to suffer problems. I don't know what a state enrichment does. I don't really understand that, but we're leaving ourselves there. There's a few good things in there in meritocracy. Mostly the research speed and the little bit of tax is great, but there's a few nice things in there that we can research to benefit. Okay, perfect. So more tribesmen have been encouraged to settle Let's keep on settling the tribesmen here. Now, Jolof doesn't have that many either because they're basically, they're on the verge of being settled anyway. But just getting that done is nice. We don't have to worry about it anymore. No, because we have so many, we have 1 million tribesmen in our country. We just settle those, you know what I mean? Need to get them out of here. Yes, we're starting to gain cores over here. Beautiful. So we got the core in here the second that Mandika and Suniz hit 50%. So it is 50% that you need to hit. It's good to know that. And like, just look at the difference in max control, 29% versus the 14%. It's such a huge control swing to actually integrate your territory. So that's why we're so heavily focused on it. But I'm wondering now, the lack of control, is it that big of a deal? It might be better. I'm thinking here, it might be better for us to take the guy who's increasing control and moving him around to settle more tribesmen. Because it would only be a small decrease. Yeah, I think actually increasing control does make the individual location go faster, but I don't think it's necessary. I think we're going to focus on settling tribesmen in the local area. So like we've got Sine here. There's only like 3,000 tribesmen in the location, so we should be able to clean that up really fast. We have no disloyal vassals, so I feel that I am ready to enforce my culture on some of my close vassals. The ones that I'm bordering, I think is fine. That will get them doing the cultural conversion of their locations for me. Forcing them to switch over to Mandika. Sokoto appears to have declared itself independent. So let's raise all of our levies and we'll give them orders to defeat them. I'm going to break this into 2 armies of 6k and tell them to focus siege the enemy fortresses. There's coastal forts. That'll actually be useful for when we're building up Rosso. Rosso is still working on its market warehouse and entrepot. We probably want to turn this into a city. Yeah, let's turn Rosso into a city. I think it's a good spot for one. And in order to drop Banal Lordship, I want to start pumping stability. Well, I probably should wait a little bit because I still have a lot of stuff I want to spend money on. Oh, that's right. I can build caravan stops. And they're super good and efficient. Yes. I forgot that that was a thing I could do. And they're sick. 1R has become a core, which means we must be getting close to getting these last 2 pieces to become cores as well. So something I would definitely like to do is to start spreading out some of our markets. Part of the problem when you start to produce a lot of goods is your productivity is actually affected by your market access. So if I pop in here and I look at like say this city here, it has a carpenter's guild. The productivity of this carpenter's guild is dependent upon multiple things. Oh my god, the tooltip keeps going away on me. I'm gonna scream. Stop, okay. So one of the things is access to input goods. One of the things is market access. And one of the things is employment. Market access is production efficiency. So if I go to the market map mode and I zoom out and you can see areas that are kind of dark, they are just less productive, right? So if I look down here at the edge of these 2 markets, right? This is where the 2 markets, like they're vying for control over the area, right? So like market attraction here of Niani is 96% and Rosso is 82%, whatever, right? This has a 40% loss of production efficiency because of its market access. Whereas if I were to put a market in between these 2, it would create productivity out of nowhere, right? And now you would have to do trading, which has its own cost. But that's why, for example, over here in Sine Ngayen, this is losing 1/3 of its productivity due to the fact that there's no market here. Whereas Rosso has 100% market and 1 step away, it's only 1%. So like, I want to build a city here in this place that has like a good natural harbor and it's attached to a river. So trading down the river is really efficient. I want to build a town here and build it up to have a market and all this sort of stuff, because this is going to be a really good location long term to trade out of for productivity and all that sort of stuff. Like, we eventually want to have a decent number of markets strategically placed along, like, you know, it's probably good for me to make, if I look at the market capabilities here, like Jenny's down to 26%. That's probably about where it might be a good point to put a market in between these 2 to distribute goods more evenly with trade and all that sort of stuff. Now, hello, England, Navy. Jesus. All right, we had a minor crash. It's okay. It's a happening. Summertime, when you make a little YouTuber video, when your computer's old and don't work so good, you get a little crash. I don't know why I became Italian for this bit. Sometimes your computer will crash. All right, Cajone has become a Cajore, meaning we just have one more little spot right here to get cored up. We have a new parliament debate that we can do. Conducting a census is really good because of the population growth. Nice little boost to our population is quite good. Developing the interior is fantastic so that we can get the +2 society towards land. I'm going to go for that. Increase opinion, practically a free click here to get parliament support. And addressing festival ground complaints, not an issue with that either. Addressing local assemblies, that's another free click. Boosh. Thank you for that, clergy. Parliament support, and I like it when what I want to do aligns with what the other people are asking me to do. We do need to handle our recruitment law. I would prefer to go for elite training eventually so that we can go for quality, because the big advantage of quality is that the individual soldiers, you get that little bit of military tactics. Now, quantity is good because you get that possible frontage. But yeah, I don't know. I think the quality might be better. Noble army is sick because you get that levy size. Super strong. So I'm going to go for a noble army for now, but eventually we might change that. My heir is remarkably incompetent. Well, let's see what's causing that. He's got a balanced education, but he's an idiot. A yeesh. We will give him an expensive education to try and overcome his terrible abilities. Did we just get a wall breach on the siege? No, but we should make the siege fall soon. Okay, so Sine Ngayen, we want to develop this in a very particular way. We want to get marketplaces up and running because they're going to allow, once we actually turn this into a market, this is going to allow it to get access to goods. The other thing that we want in here is we want masons if we can get them, and then lumber mills if we can get them, just so this has like the baseline resources to produce buildings inside its market. Then the other thing that we're going to want is a glass guild, because the glass guild is also a construction industry. So just make sure you have those in your market, in the place that you plan to make into a market capital. It's just good. It's good practice. Good praxis. 5% support. Yes! Another colony finishes. That means a lot more money. We've also got educated bureaucrats. It's going to give us a literacy boost. We've developed the interior. Come on, please finish the siege. I really need you to finish this siege. It's 39 troops. Right, finish that siege and then go wipe these guys out before they clean up that siege. So I need to annex the revolter and take all their money. Thankfully, the AI hasn't seen me. They have other threats that they're focused on right now, or other characters that they see as easier targets. So I can chill and develop my economy without too much in the way of fear. Let me go ahead and drop a siege here so we can go catch this enemy army out. Okay, beautiful. We finished integrating some tribesmen over here. Let's continue to settle. Kaor only has another 2,000 tribesmen, so practically done settling this region from a tribe's perspective. What is the actual conversion rate looking like here? So 9, happiness is low. Need to convert the peasants. So we've got, if it rogue, 13823. 13, yeah, okay, so they are converting nice and quickly. 1771. Nice, a little bit of tax efficiency. That's always beautiful. Tax efficiency is one of the best modifiers in the entire game, by the way, because this is free money. It's just free money. Wolof Patriots have also declared independence. Well, that's another annoying one. I'll raise a bunch of levies nearby. This is the downside of being a big empire. You piss off a lot of people. Okay, let's see. You're good at assimilating people into Mandika. Let's see. You know what I kind of need right now? I need someone to stabilize our country. Morocco, please help. I think getting Morocco's help here against Jolof is probably overkill, but they do have 3k troops, which is a lot more than I was bargaining for. The multiple rebellions are a little bit more difficult to deal with than I was kind of really hoping for. Okay, we've almost got this revolter dealt with. Well, this guy's amazingly, he's actually coming to look for a fight here. It seems to be. We'll deal with him later. Yes, another colony finishes, which means a lot of money. It's so hard. This is one of my biggest complaints with the UI, is it's so hard to find where the capital of a province is. Because you got to look for this like little flag. Like there it is. That's what I'm looking for this, okay? I'm looking for this flag and it's quite hard to see. I just wish, like when you had an army selected, I wish it would show you where the doodads are a little bit better. There's a nice boost to trade efficiency. Medina has fallen. Yeah, they're enslaving some people. That's fine. And we still have a lot of peasants. We need to settle those tribesmen so that we can turn them into more useful pops. It's a process, it's a procedure, takes its time. Let's have a look at Rosso. Probably be a good idea to build a protected harbor. We want that harbor capacity. The coastal fort would be nice as well. Maritime presence is really useful. We're definitely going to want to max out the marketplaces, the warehouses, the granaries. Hold down shift when you click on them to just max them out, by the way. That's what I'm doing there. We definitely want to subsidize the glass guild and make sure we have about 5 of them here. We definitely want to max out masons so that the area has good access to masonry. Aside from that, if we look at the profitability of buildings, kind of just leave this the way that it is for now. We'll make a cannons guild because I think the fortress, the coastal fort, will want that. So this will be busy building stuff for a long time. All right, Sokoto are ready to be annexed. I want all the money too. I have now annexed Sokoto. Well, we'll be busy integrating all this territory for a potentially very long time. Let's bring our armies over to the capital where they may be brought to bear upon Jolof, who is currently in the middle of revolting. There we go. A couple of armies. We're going to consolidate and balance and then split in half. We have a couple of armies here that we can use to siege down our opponents in Jolof. I could grant burger land rights. Lowering RGO size in towns and cities doesn't feel good. I'm happy to just let them know that they need to lower their place, man. All right, let's annex this revolter as well. We need them to, there we go. Boom, boom, boom. So now we're at peace. We can disband our levies and take stock of our situation. I'm curious, has my integration gone well here? No, we're still missing a little bit of Mandika and a little bit of Sunniism. But you can already see, look at the effect that, like, take this piece of territory that I've like focused on integrating, and you can see like, oh, the average control here, not too bad, right? It's about 14. You consider that with like over here, 0. This one is infinitely more useful to me than the one over there. So if we take a look at the natural harbor suitability of our country as well, there's a couple of other good potential places for harbors like Medina over here. So I'm going to go ahead and pop down a rural settlement. Or sorry, not a rural settlement. I'm going to pop down a town right here because this is going to be a good candidate for a harbor / market center because it has good base harbor capacity, which, you know, proximity cost through port, trade, disembark, embark cost, yada yada, blah blah blah. Now we must consider the possibility of adding another marketplace in Degeni, and there's also other considerations we can make. So for example, if we go to Rosso and we go to the road builder, it would be nice if we could filter by market, because we want to build roads out to, we want to build efficient roads out to its market locations, because that's going to help with the trade capacity, right? Because trade travels in the same way that power does, so we eventually want to make sure that we link up our network like this. It's probably not important to do with gravel roads. Might be more important later on in the game. But yeah, so I want to look for not fully expanded RGOs that has a, you know what, I'm just going to expand it. Better off just mass expanding. Let's begin pumping stability. So we're maxing out our stability in order to dismantle our nobility estate. We need to have 73, 74 stability. So we're going to be waiting quite a while for that. So it's going to be a big expense for a while. But the nice thing is, as more and more of our colonies start to finish up, we should see a significant surplus of cash in our country. Perfect. We're settling more tribesmen. Now, this cabinet member who just finished settling tribesmen, he actually has really bad stats for settling tribesmen. So perhaps it would be better if I focused him on assimilating populations of our culture. Now, I don't think we have cores over here, so I'm going to start, well, maybe it would be better in the short term. I mean, settling tribesmen. Here's the thing about tribesmen is they can become peasants, which means they can jump around your country and fill in jobs. So maybe settling tribesmen is the right thing to do with him. I'm going to go ahead and delete my army. And I'm going to start the construction of a new army. I'm going to recruit regulars. And rather than recruiting heavy cavalrymen, I want to recruit regular cavalrymen, because heavy cavalrymen actually make use of tools, so they're a little bit more expensive. I would rather use these cheaper regular cavalry. The big advantage of cavalry is they're also a lot faster. They're, what's this? This is their initiative combat speed. Their regular movement speed is 2.5, whereas like if you look at infantrymen, oh, they also move at the same speed. For some reason, I thought they would be faster. Well, I could go for men-at-arms. The problem is men-at-arms use tools, whereas cavalrymen don't use tools. And we also have cavalry combat ability as Mali. So our cavalry is a little bit more efficient. It has extra initiative, so they could be quite useful. So let's start recruiting some cavalrymen in our capital. I guess I'll go with 10 for now. Should be like 1,000 cavalrymen. So we could get community schools to buff our literacy, or we could get stability. I think I'll take community schools because it would be nice to reach higher levels of literacy faster. You can see the literacy in my country is kind of sparsely dispersed, and we definitely need to grow up. You could definitely see the effect of the urban superhighway, by the way. Now, we are also going to want to build an urban highway out to Medina as well, because we'll eventually want canal systems and stuff. It'll be a long-term thing. So let me have a look here. One of my markets, the Bago market, is actually having a food issue. Why is that? Simply, you're not producing enough food. Well then, let's have a look at the Bago market. I'm going to go into the RGO building. I'm going to filter by farming, and all of these farming items, they should, in theory, inside this market, they should, in theory, lead to a food surplus in this market, which will be very helpful. So I'm just going to pump up a bunch of food there. Now, there is a question that we need to ask ourselves now that we have this area fully integrated. Do we want to sit here and finish integrating the rest of it, or do we want to let it just like passively convert the rest of the population to our culture and stuff? Because once it's like, the advantage of getting them here is that you get the happiness up quite high, which leads to benefits towards prosperity and control. But I think the major thing is getting the core. So I am going to move these guys. I'm going to tell you to start converting over in Jolof, and I'm going to get the guy who's assimilating here to assimilate Jolof as well into the Mandika culture. And hopefully the combination of these two things will lead to higher stability across our empire, higher control. And remember, higher control directly translates into crown power. More control equals more crown power. So really, really good to focus on that. A lovely smooth administration is going to lower our stability investment cost. Our stability investment cost is not too bad. It's a minus 5%, partially because of innovative ideas, makes it a little bit harder. But that will add up a significant amount of cash over the course of the game. Need to find like a young guy who is willing to work in my cabinet. There you are, good sir. Please join the cabinet. Our vassal has called us into their rebellion. I'll wait till these cavalry are finished before I make use of them to go deal with that rebellion. So if we impose a tariff, we will move towards a traditional economy and make our Vangara happier. But if we refuse to impose a tariff, we'll move more towards a capital economy. And a capital economy has the benefit of cheaper buildings, so capital economy is the way to go long term. I don't mind pissing off my estates to affect long-term social change. Jesus, I have a fort limit of 60. That's kind of crazy, actually. We will want and need more forts, because even forts stimulate your economy. But, okay, sick. We're not quite strong enough to take these guys on, so we're going to sit on the edge here and maybe wait for a few vassals to group up with us. Beautiful. So there is more power projection, which is excellent. Also, out of curiosity, yeah, the new institutions haven't quite made it to us. I'm curious, do you get different options if you settle this somewhere? Reach out to our faith, promote never yeah, none of these are super important. I do like doing this in my capital because it means you get maxed out development in your capital. So I want to do it in Niani. I don't care about a shipbuilding industry. Making the peasants happier is cool. I don't care about naval infrastructure. Supporting the state is nice. How old is our king? He's 46, so we would benefit for that for a while. Promoting castle works is nice because it does mean that we don't have to pay as much for our forts for a long time. Oh yeah, I will happily support an outward look and destroy some of these festival grounds. We are going to have to cut the cost of our court a little bit. I don't think I can afford to pump that much in there. About 50% should be enough, I think. We'll get up to the high legitimacy levels nice and quick. Yes, another colony finishes. Yes, another colony finishes. Every colonial finishes actually saves us a huge amount of money on our colony costs. We definitely went a little bit overboard. By a little bit, I mean, we definitely went omega overboard on our colony building. But it did mean we have this absolutely gargantuanly huge country now. Our capital almost has full development, which is insane. I'm kind of scrolling through the list of what's available to me. Cheaper bank interest, more ships, new effects and abilities is kind of cool. Better culture is nice. Just grab a few of those. But really what we want is to advance to, we want to get one of these from the Age of Discovery. Why are they spreading so slowly? I feel like they should spread a little bit quicker. Yeah, I think they're spreading just fine. It just takes time. Just takes time. We still have a shortage of iron. No matter what we do, I feel like we just can't get enough iron. So let's settle the tribesmen in Futajelan. There's not that many in there, so they'll be done pretty quick. Okay, perfect. We managed to settle the war with Oyo's rebellion. We'll bring these cavalry back. I would like to create a full stack of 30 cavalry with the idea that they're able to basically flood the front line and act as a shock troop. We kind of like that'd be the dealio. Oh, I should also bring them back to my capital and drill them, because the average experience of our army will have positive effects on our army tradition, and higher levels of army tradition will get us more land progress. And now that we have a relatively large army, I do feel safe building a navy. And so the Mediterranean galley has a naval presence of 12, whereas the bark has 14 and the cog has 2. So I'm going to build myself some barks. It looks like Rosso is the place. I'll just, oh, I do not want to cube 28. What kind of naval level does, let's see, expected navy size. What does that mean? I don't know. Coastal population. So they expect me to have a pretty big navy. Tell you what, let's start with 23 barks, because that's what I can sustain from a maximum sailor point of view. We just unlocked the Hulk, which I believe is a transport type ship. So one thing I definitely want to do across my entire economy is make sure that fishing villages are subsidized, and we probably want to build a bunch of them, because again, the really nice thing about fishing villages, right, it comes, well, they have a variety of positive effects, but the big one is the maritime presence makes trade more efficient. Trade capacity is great, and then they produce a little bit of fish, which is a foodstuff, so it's not terrible for food, but really we care about this maritime presence for our trading situation, and the food capacity and the trade capacity. So there's a small price to pay to have a really thriving naval, well, a burgeoning naval economy, I guess. So make sure I build a few more up along here and build a few out here too. Let's marry our daughter to Egypt. Also, let's do a search for trade offices. Plant those along the Moroccan coast. I'll improve opinion with Tunisia just for the sake of it, so that I can start to build trading posts there too. We have the beginning of a navy. I'm probably just going to let that navy chill there for quite a while. All right, let's enforce our culture on a few of our vassals. Even if they want to rebel, I don't think they would be able to stop me. They're not big enough even together. So by doing that, we should be able to make integration of this territory and land way easier down the line. Oh man, it's about to be here. We've talked about this for a very, very long time, but now lordship requires 77 stability to revoke. Oh, Gobir has called me into a rebellion as well. Hold on. Send my army over to help. What the hell was I doing? Did I forget what I was doing? I was doing a thing. I got distracted. Damn it. Downside. You know what I'm missing? I probably haven't been building my caravan stops. Oh, we got a heresy? No heresy allowed. Sorry, bud. Cannot be allowed. All right, mass building caravans. I wish I could just hold down this button rather than having to click it. Like, do you want to give me carpal tunnel, bro? Is that the goal? Because it'll work. So here's actually a really good opportunity for me to show off how the military system works by attacking this enemy army. So we have these cavalrymen that are pretty high skill, both in terms of the quality of the cavalry, but also in terms of their experience. And even though we are outnumbered here and probably going to be taking a penalty from crossing a river or something, we should have a very easy time winning this fight. Actually, our commander is way better than theirs, but I can show off some pretty interesting quirks of the battle system by slowing down the game a lot. So we have just engaged the enemy in this battle. Now, we actually got pretty lucky in that multiple of our cavalry units have already engaged right from the get-go. There are three sections of there's three fronts of your army. There is your reserves, and then there are your flanks, right? You have your center, your right. These are like ready to fight. And then you have your engaged, you have reserves, which are units that are not engaged, nor are they trying to engage. Then you have your unengaged and trying to engage flank. So you've got the right flank here. You can see there are multiple armies trying to engage based on their initiative. Multiple regiments on each flank. Like my left flank immediately engaged, and now they're attacking the enemy right flank, and they're going to do a lot of damage. Like if I let an hour go through, that was a little bit faster than was meant to happen. If I hover over these guys, you can see that they're doing damage. They're killing 8 and inflicting this much. And these guys are just sitting there tanking it because they haven't successfully managed to roll the engagement dice to get them onto the field to fight. So this is where initiative is extremely valuable. A high initiative allows you to absolutely eviscerate an enemy army before they can even get their boots on, before they can get a chance to actually get into the fight. And so that's one of the biggest advantages of having a really high initiative army of like cavalry. Now, the thing is, the longer that a fight goes on, the easier it is for an army to do to roll their initiative dice and engage. And so basically, because cavalry have a penalty to their stats, if I come here and I show you, you can see cavalry they take 20% more morale damage and they do 10% less strength damage. If the fight is big enough, it doesn't matter if your cavalry reach there first, because they're just going to run into higher quality troops. But when you're of an engagement of a similar level, having your army be cavalry gives you a significant advantage. But that advantage is diluted over time by the size of the army that you're engaging. So just if you don't know what I just said, here's the simple version. Early game, cavalry good. That's basically what I said. Cavalry do more damage at start of fight. Boom. Now you understand it. Ooh, a wave of innovation. That's actually really big for us, especially because we're trying to get institutions. Speaking of institutions, we're very close. Very, 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 very close. It'd be nice if I had some cannons with these cavalry to blast these forts down. Okay, Muhun has rebelled. Now that's going to make me raise all my levies. I have the stability now to revoke banal lordship. This is going to really, 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 really piss off the Umara, but that's fine. Yes, they're going to become rebellious. Sure, fine, whatever. But now I have +5 control across my entire damn country that they're no longer stealing from me, meaning I'm actually going to get a much bigger proportion of my entire country's like wealth, my entire empire's wealth. I'm going to cut some of my stability spending now that we succeeded. I do want a little bit of stability spending though, to prevent dipping below 10%. So I'll put a bit of money in there. We took away banal lordship. We could give them a new thing, but I think our long-term goal is to disempower the nobility. So if there's any of these estate privileges that we can revoke that we don't particularly like primacy of the nobility, I think their base political power is like if we were able to revoke the primacy of the nobility as well, sure, we would have a lower quality army and less discipline, but man, that's a lot of political power to feed back in to my crown, which would result in overall higher estate satisfaction, trade income, all these positive effects. Elaborate court life, damn. Okay, they have a lot of really, this would be nice because the levy combat efficiency is like super strong, but banal lordship is bad for me. Fortifications licenses is nice because of the fort limit. Max tax efficiency, I don't like decentralization. Monetary fiefs wouldn't be terrible. It would make them a little bit happier. Nobility controlled serfdom is also not terrible because of the reduction of food consumption of peasants, which don't eat that much realistically. But really we don't want the nobles to have too many privileges. In particular, we don't want them to have those 100% political power privileges. Those ones are tough to claw back. So yeah, we're probably going to deal with a few rebellions here. No, don't crash. No game. No, they hadn't even rebelled. Blah, 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 blah. The rollback. All right, let me revoke banal lordship because losing max control just sucks. All right, we got a big old stack here. Now the Mossy have about 4K in their stacks, so we should be able to split our stacks in half a couple times. That didn't quite work. There we go. So we got 4 stacks of about the same size, and we will send each one to a different important location in their country. Okay, we're almost ready to annex. Who is this? Muhun. I think they're willing to accept that. They have been annexed. Now we need to do this rebellion too. I think we actually need to finish some of these sieges before we can annex them. Songhai has declared itself independent. Of course they have. We will have to soundly defeat them. The problem with maintaining a large, expansive empire is, you know, people get a little bit mad that you're the winner. And they get tired of being on the losing side of the equation. There's cultural tradition and cultural influence boosted. We should actually have really strong culture thanks to all of the libraries we've built. Yeah, we've got pretty damn strong culture. I don't think we're one of the strongest in the game, but we're definitely strong. Definitely very strong. Developing the interior would be nice so that we can finish maxing out land. Boom. I'll address some artisan guild complaints and some festival ground complaints. That'll get us the support we need. I'm pretty sure my nobility estate is going to rebel. There's not much I can do about that. We just have to tank that. See, rebellion against Mali, annex. No matter how much iron I produce, it's never enough. Just been building as many bog iron locations as we can. One day we might be able to produce enough iron to supply our tools market. Okay, council has decided to develop the interior. Perfect, +2 towards land. That's going to help with our proximity propagation, which will help with our control propagation. We have a couple of locations that are above 90%, which is beautiful to see. Patron of the arts, perfect. Let's go ahead and annex all locations, demand money. All right, we're getting ready to integrate or embrace some new institutions. So I'm going to be saving up some cash here. I would like to disband my levies now that I am at peace. And then I'm going to grab my army and send them back to Niani so they can go chill and drill. I have a navy here. I'm not quite planning to use the navy just yet, but we will use them as a patrol fleet on the African coastline in the not too distant future. In fact, you know what? Why don't you go ahead and focus on the West African coastline in a patrol sense. And so what these guys are going to do now across the entire West African coastline, they are going to provide a boost to our naval presence. Higher naval presence makes trading easier, gives you trade advantage, yada yada, blah blah blah. I really don't know how to get rid of pirates. I suppose you just have to patrol your shores. All right, I'm going to go on a pilgrimage to the, let me see, Infos. Let's do it. So I'm on pilgrimage for a year. I lose some prestige, but I gain, or I lose some crown power, but I gain prestige. Cool. That was an expensive button I just clicked. Hope it was worth it. Okay, great news. Sine Ngewe Gain, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, is ready to build a market. It has all of the basic infrastructure, like marketplaces, which are going to be able to allow it to exchange goods. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go to my market and I'm going to build a new market here. Ooh, it's expensive. The price of building a market depends on the market access of the location. So the higher the market access, the more expensive it is, I believe, which is fine. Okay, let's build the market here as we had planned so that we can increase the market access average of our empire. And we've almost got all of our cores here. If I check, yeah, just one more place needs a little bit of Mandika and Sunnism. Beautiful. I do wish that I could say, hey, convert here until core. Like, I wish that was an option for the guy, because they'll just keep going there and I have to like manually check it. And I really hate it when a game tests whether you remember to do a thing. Like, that shit drives me crazy, is when a game is like, oh, you forgot to do this? Did you remember to click this button on a regular basis? Like, oh, you just performed better because you did, or you just performed worse because you didn't. That shit drives me crazy. I don't think, unless it's a memory game, you should not be testing the memory of your player. So the new market location is great for us because it should increase the average GDP. It'll also allow us to generate more revenue from trading, to move resources around our economy. I'm going to come in here and there should be new buildings I can build. Yes, I want the entrepot, the counting house, the market warehouse, the wharf is good. Got a whole bunch of buildings that I want to build in here. Definitely want the granary, the protected harbor, and We maxed out our masons. That's great. We have our dock, our coastal fortress. Perfect. Yeah, so this city will be busy building stuff for quite a while. And now something that's interesting about how populations migrate in this game is populations can only migrate within a market. So like now, population inside this market is all going to it will migrate inside this market. They won't migrate all over the place, which allows you to create like smaller trade centers based around market centers, which is really quite good. But yeah, now my average market access is a little bit better. It's fantastic. So I think we've cored up this area we were working on converting and coring. Let's grab you and put you on the assimilation into Mandika in Walao, and then we're going to get you to convert the population as well to Sunniism. Beautiful. And that'll take a little bit of time to get that conversion going. Yes, more colonies are finishing. All that money we were spending on colonies, we're down below 100 gold on colonies for the first time in God knows how long. Okay, sick. We have art schools. We should probably build that in Niani because that's a unique building you can only build one of, and therefore it has a unique effect, which is better artists and some cultural tradition and stuff. Perfect. Oh, we're almost ready to embrace New World. Dude, colonization is about to begin. Good job, we finished settling some tribesmen. Let's keep settling tribesmen. The Vitruvian man is ready to give me New World. So I think we can safely click the button. I might wait. I'm kind of curious to see what happens if I wait until the Age of Discovery is over before I get some of these. Does it make it cheaper? Hopefully. We'll wait a little bit. We'll wait just a smidge. Oh, lovely. We have access to that theater. I will, of course, build a theater in here because of its wonderful effects, mainly on unrest and cultural tradition. It's fantastic. Let's see. Oh, Jesus Christ! I forgot that I said you could do that. So, if you're wondering why I just screamed for no reason, my wife, I have a Nerf gun, and I shot my wife with it earlier, and I said tag. And I said, I give you permission to open my door while I'm recording and shoot me, if needs be, because it'll be funny, because I'll probably forget that I said this. And she's currently like ready to bend double, cackling in laughter in the hallway, as I Nostradamused myself into getting fucking terrified by a Nerf gun. Thank you, sweetheart. Now, if you could close the door to my office so I can live with this embarrassment. I love you too. Thank you. Jesus Christ. Why did I do that to my... Well, I didn't... She's going to pay for that. Oh, she's going to pay for that. That's for damn sure. All right, I've got an 18-year-old here. I'm going to appoint him as the head of cabinet for the 25% crown power plus the little boost of legitimacy. Is worth it, I think, long term. All right, I got a 20k stack heading over to deal with this war. So many children coming of age. So the Age of Discovery will end in just a few months. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, let's see if we can drop this fat stack of units on our enemy here. Oh yeah, they're getting absolutely obliterated. That's an evisceration if I ever did see one. Morocco asked me to help them with their... What is this? Moroccan noble war? Dude, I don't even see where your nobles are fighting you. Okay, thanks for calling me to war. Appreciate you, bud. Here we go. It is almost... What is the next age? The age of reforming? There we go. Age of Reformation. Alrighty. So we get to pick a new set of abilities here. So if we take a look at the Age of Reformation, colonies are no longer cheaper. Trade is cheaper. Ooh, converting pop goes faster. Control matters for war score. You get bigger armies. Antagonism happens more. Levies get weaker. That's the big time. And the Navy levy size, that's minus 100%. No more naval levies. That's the end of them. It also unlocks mercantilism versus free trade. So more mercantilism means cheaper maintenance but less efficiency, more protection and export cost, whereas free trade makes your burghers do more trading but your market's less protected. I think free trade sounds kind of good. So on our focus side of things, we have our three areas here. So expanded infrastructure network would make road building cheaper. Divine supremacy would allow us to convert faster. Devoutness, more happiness for tolerance. Monthly prestige, tax efficiency is really good. Income from minting is pretty damn good. Trade advantage is pretty good. Tolerance of heathens isn't terrible. Culture capacity is good. Ecumenism is good. Honestly, this all looks really good. Audit checks. Ooh, 10% tax efficiency. That's hard not to take. Efficiency at cabinet's really strong. Maximum diplomats. Trade maintenance. Market attraction. Diplomatic reputation. Trade capacity. Colonial migration. Cheaper colonial maintenance. Navy maintenance. Oh, okay. I mean, this one with the 10% tax efficiency, a few of these in here seemed really good. So what's this? Defensive mentality, fort defense, culture capacity, unit food consumption, army attrition, camp followers, engineer corps, ooh, defensive army, ooh, attritioning enemy armies that sounds crazy. Conscripted garrisons, bigger garrisons and faster growth. Navy attrition reductions. Oh man, each one of these has like some really good stuff in it. Like the admin focus is going to make your people so happy. Plus cheaper roads, tax efficiency. Oh man, it's hard. 10% tax efficiency on its own is kind of crazy though. Like that's insane if you ask me. Because tax efficiency isn't an easy thing to get. And 10% on top of cabinet efficiency, that's pretty damn good. I think I got to go with the diplomatic focus. Although part of me wants to go with the administrative focus because I really love the pop conversion speed. I love the tolerance of the true faith, because if you're not sure how that works, if we go to the religion here, you can see tolerance of the true faith. Sets some of the happiness of your population. So you can see here, I have a 4.5 tolerance. So if I come in here into Niani and I look at some of the demographics, I look at some nobles, right? If we look at the nobles, probably the nobles are not the right people here, but Malian tolerance of Sunnism. So you take your tolerance, multiply it by 10, divide it by 2, or in essence, multiply it by like 5-ish. A little bit more, but anyway. Higher tolerance makes these guys happier. Higher happiness means they're less likely to rebel. Higher happiness also leads to faster institution growth, more control, less prosperity loss, more prosperity in essence. So like tolerance of the true faith is actually really damn strong. Plus tolerance of heretics. And I think there was heathens in here too. Yeah. Heathens would help, because if I look at some heathen people here, right, I'm at a -5 and a -1.5. Let's say I find a Nyama pop here. Let's see who follows this religion. Mostly the tribesmen. You look at the difference in happiness here, right? So this tribesman who follows the right religion, right, gets +22 happiness. This one gets -25%. I imagine it caps out at 5. So that tolerance is really strong, really strong. The extra conversion rate would be nice too for the slow assimilation of the country. Yeah, I'm going to go for administrative focus. Screw it. And so now the second part of this is that confessionalism could appear. And I believe it has a percentage chance to appear based on the type of place. So literacy increases it. I don't know. Yeah, so like it could appear in a whole variety of places. Global trade has a really high chance of appearing in Naples, which I think is all the way over here. And then artillery has a good chance of appearing in Paris. All right, so let's embrace the new world. What texts are we in the middle of researching? Let me just double check. Yeah, we were in the middle of doing anatomy. So I'm going to go to the Age of Discovery. And so we have new world here. So if we take this, we can make exploration prep time go down. We can increase our diplo range and our colonial range. So we definitely want that. We definitely want it to be cheaper to maintain colonial charters, cheaper to create them, and faster to settle them. So absolutely. Recruiting explorers would be nice. It's not like required. More we're concerned with actually getting like migration. So let me type in migrate. Faster colonists is down here, but that would require a printing press. That's fine. So let me go back to New World. Let's see. Ooh, discipline. That's kind of cool. Cavaliers, rights of the burghers. We could dismantle the burgher rights. There's naval range here. Ooh, trading hubs. What is this? So this is a building that must be built in a city or in a town. It has to be in a market center, and it gives trade capacity. Ain't that nice? It's like a souped up market. Pop promotion speed is sick. Ooh, iron output. Holy balls. We need this so badly. My entire economy is like tanking due to the lack of this. Ooh, unlocking plantations. So plantations require slaves. Tobacco requires slaves. Cotton requires slaves. Very cool. Yeah, I definitely want blast furnace. That iron output is going to be huge for us. Anyway, big. And the nice is, technically, New World is an age old, so we're getting it kind of cheaper. All right, let's run a parliament in Niani. What have we got? Back the war effort. We don't have war exhaustion, so we don't need that. Nothing wrong with expanding the gravel road network. I'm going to wait a bit before I assimilate more things. I'm going to pump my stability up even more, because I never want to dip below 10% stability or things will go really bad for me. Fine, I'll support... I don't want to support the aristocracy. We might just have to lose stability with the failure of the gravel road network. I will start building some roads, however. I think it is worth it. One thing I find annoying in a game is like, and this goes back to this idea of like, why are you testing my memory? Like, I want to declare war on this guy, right? And I want to declare war for slave raiding because it's a lower stability cost or whatever. Let's say hypothetically. I have to like build a spy network, remember to create a casus belli, and then declare war. Why can't I just say like, hey, I want you to, like the second, like, why isn't that all integrated into a single series of actions? Because now you're just testing my memory. You know what I mean? You're not actually checking if I can play the game well. You're just seeing if I can remember to press the buttons in the correct order. But the problem is that that's not fun for me because I'm not being tested on that, because what I'm trying to do is all this other stuff that's happening, right? And I find that just frustrating. That sort of stuff in games really, really gets me. It's one of those things where it is one of those times where I ask the question of like, do the guys play their game, you know? And I'm not in a, oh, they don't play their game, blah, 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 but in like a, come on guys, like you gotta do this. You gotta know that this doesn't feel good. They must know. How do you not run into this yourself when you're playing? It's probably a nicer way to ask that question, which is, yeah, how do you not run into this yourself when you're playing? Tunisia, can I make a trade office? Oh, yes, I can. So let's make sure we build all the trade offices everywhere that we can. Oh, I don't have the money. Well, we'll get around to it. Beautiful. There's colonial and diplomatic range. I do need to make sure that I'm making good friends with the Egyptians over there. And I'm ordering assaults on fortresses to try to finish these sieges faster because I'm tired of this war. Okay, Bonaman has demanded its independence. Well, we can deal with this, I think. Okay, let's eat up Bonaman so we don't have to deal with that. I don't like that I'm in a war that I don't understand. Who is this? Why am I at war with Pindare? I'm just gonna separate peace on that one. It was all funky. Like, at the very least, I wish I could tell the game, right? Like, I'm building a spy network and these guys to conquer them, right? I wish I could tell the game, hey, remind me when I want to like, remind me when I'm at 20 so I can create a war thingy against them. You know, that would just be so much nicer, wouldn't it? All right, let me grab my cabinet. I'm going to stop stabilizing my country, and instead I'm going to settle tribesmen in the hinterlands of my country. There are many tribesmen that we need to get settled down. Oh, another independence war. Dagobon. We're just going to be dealing with a continuous chain of angry rebellions, aren't we? I think so. I'm going to go ahead. How much is it for the integration here? 3,000. I'm going to say any gold above 4,000. I'm going to say, oh wow, okay. Yeah, any gold above 4,000, my automatic constructor can go ahead. Oh yes. So 50% faster colonies and much cheaper colony maintenance. That's going to be beautiful. So if we check out a couple of these now, yeah, we're looking at 77 pop. Much better colonization. If we go to colony map mode, with a few little spots we could start colonizing that no one else seems to want to. We're setting up a bunch of new colonies. Oh, there's a colony here we should do. I'm not going to worry about the coastline down here. I kind of care a little bit more about the inland stuff. So yeah, perfect. We are colonizing far and wide. Okay, we finished coring up this land. Let's go ahead and assimilate and core a new location into our culture. Don't forget to convert it as well. So yeah, we need to convert these guys to Mandika, and then we need to make them go to Sunniism. So Dagobon, please give me all your money. Full annexation. Oh, they're not ready to peace. I have to knock out their final piece of territory. Yes, Cape Verde is finished. I believe we're no longer colonizing over here, so we can actually set this up as a useful coastal location, like a trading port area. So I'll tell you what we'll do. is we will grab our macro builder. We want to build some peasant buildings. We want to build some fishing villages in here for sure. Ooh, you know what? Before we build these fishing villages, change my mind. You know what would be the right thing to build here? The all-important settlements, because they are going to encourage immigrants to these locations, and what will settle in and increase the population to something way more reasonable. Okay, Dagobon, let me fully annex you, grab all your gold. Boom. We've got some insurgents coming for sure. Perfect, we're at peace. All right, let's disband all of our levies and we'll grab our main armies and get them to come home. Bit of a fun time to get all that wrapped up, but hey, it worked. Ooh, so now we have access to plantations. So I believe we could build sugar plantations if we wanted to. Let me have a look. Do I actually have locations that I could build those? No, I think they need to be built in particular places. Can we build in places that produce sugar and is overseas? So overseas has no land connection to the capital. Right, okay, so it has to be a place that already produces sugar. So almost certainly I could produce a bunch of sugar down here in wherever South America is, which we have not yet discovered because we've been so focused on other things. We definitely need to save up money to embrace these institutions, so that's what we'll do. So definitely something I want to do is make sure I have a really strong supply of wood throughout my empire. So anywhere that it's not fully expanded, I'm going to max it out. I can't afford that. Oh, wait, no, whoops. I needed that money. I forgot I need money for... Money is just like the most important thing, man. You need it for everything. We're up to 300k burgers, though, in our empire, which is pretty damn good. Oh, we have been proclaimed as the Economic Hegemon. Cool. So now we can get production efficiency. Nice. I mean, it makes sense. We are Mali. We have all of the gold. I definitely have learned so much in this run that I would do differently. Nothing that I need to change immediately, but there's so many little things about how to properly interact with your vassals, when to annex them. Like, I mean, a lot of this territory out here just is being completely useless because I annexed my vassals way too early. Like, to the point where it's probably worth it for me to like re-vassalize it, honestly. So tell you what, let me create a subject here. I'm going to create a vassal in Wa, ran by, I don't know, a junior member of my house. You. The first thing we're going to do is start improving opinion with them because we're going to enforce our culture upon them so they can start culturally converting their territory, and we'll slowly feed them stuff. Because now these guys, like, we were getting 0 from this territory, right? Because 0 control means we're getting no value from it, and it's actually hurting us from a political power point of view. Now these guys, their capital is like right here, so they're getting some amount of something from it. Not much right now, admittedly, because they don't seem to be generating any taxes, but they will in due time. What I do need to do is we need to provide them with economic support. Yeah, we need to enforce our religion and our culture, but for now I need to be giving them like a bit of economic support, because right now they're sending me money. We'll support them from the top down. Don't worry about that. Actually, one of the ways that I could support them is by improving their base tax. So let me just like fully build out their RGOs. Again, I'm spending money that I shouldn't. Okay, we're going to do a slave raiding war against these guys, but the actual motivation is to destroy them and annex them. Yes, we got the plus 75% iron output. It's huge. Does that significantly help with our iron? Yes, we now have an iron surplus. Oh, it's big. It's a very small iron surplus, but it's a big deal. I mean, okay, tech-wise, let's go to the Age of Discovery, New World. Ooh, colonial policy would be nice. Colonial migration, colonial maintenance. Let's go with colonial policy as our next unlock. It'd be nice to be able to get explorers, because like I don't actually know what explorers do. Copper and tin output. We cared about the blast furnace. The arts academy is nice for the cultural influence and tradition. The trading hub would be great. I also wouldn't mind the diplomatic range. Rights of the burghers. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna go for the rights of the burghers. So that's my next 5 techs. Sorted. Okay, I'm going to cut my stability investment down to 60%. That seems a little bit more reasonable. I've got another parliament. Funding farming estates is cool. Expanding mining operations is cool. I don't mind sponsoring religious art. Ooh, conducting a census for population. Let's go. And since I already have printing press like ready to go, I don't care about containing it. So I did a click for that. Okay, sick. because I just wanted to get this parliament above 50% so that it would pass. I should make some cannons. Oh, we need cannon and tin. We don't really have access to tin in my market, do we? So I could trade some stability for some innovative ability. Yeah, I'll take that. I don't want to lose innovativeness because it's really hard to get innovativeness. Or at least it feels like it. Nice, there's a plus stability. We also just unlocked colonial policy law. There we go, colonial policy. So we can either go for more migration or more colonial range. I want that migration. I am happy to switch that at some point, but right now the big thing for me is finishing those colonies that I have underway. All right, let me sue for peace here. Give me your land. It's too expensive. Give me 2 pieces of your land. Okay, perfect. We finished settling some tribesmen out here. We definitely need to keep settling tribesmen, but we also need to develop our cores. So I think I'm going to set you on Assimilate into Mandika in Bowel. And then this tribesman guy, I'm going to tell him to convert the province to our religion in Bowel as well. So we're trying to integrate both of these. Okay, let's go ahead and make Yatenga into our tributary, but we're actually going to make him a vassal. We might even just eat him entirely from minute 1. Just tired of these like little holes in my territory, and I didn't want to declare a no CB war. I have to force them to be a tributary? Oh, that's annoying. I can't make them a vassal? Ew, I didn't know that. Well, whatever. Well, you live and learn. Looks like it'll be no CB wars from here on out. Okay, so this vassal, I need to convert them to my religion. Now, they'll be really pissed off for a very long time, but that's okay. The hope is, ooh, naval range, nice. The hope is that they will start doing the conversion stuff towards Sunniism. After all, I just invested like a ridiculous amount of money to build up their economy, like all their RGOs. So they better be thankful. So we did build up Medina as planned into a city, but we still have stuff we need to build, like marketplaces. If it's going to be the seat of a trade hub, it'll need marketplaces at the very least. Okay, sick. Let's adopt the printing press. It'll cost us a little bit of stability, but not a big deal. And then we'll save up for pike and shot. Oh, we weren't meant to take out a loan, but apparently we took out a loan. I'll repay that in a month. Sick. So we just unlocked trading hubs. Those are a nice building. I'll put one over here. Oh, right, they're expensive. Need to save up. Definitely need to build some trading posts. So my little vassal here has actually done a really good job of integrating its territory. You know what we could do? Oh, you have a huge lumber shortage in this feckin' zone, and for some reason they're not trading to get it. If there's a massive lumber shortage in a market, hold on, why is there not more being sent here? There is so much lumber in Niani. Wait, why aren't you getting lumber? That doesn't make any sense. I are confused. Hold on. I have a trade importing lumber, right? Are you not getting the lumber? Dude, the trade system is so opaque to me. Yeah, I have like 45 trade capacity assigned here. How many goods am I actually moving? Why only 5? Are you getting your wood now? Is it happening? I don't think it's happening. I don't understand why it's not. I don't understand. Why aren't you importing wood? What the hell is going on in this market? You have a gargantuan deficit of wood. And presumably I have a good supply of it in Niani, right? I'm exporting 41 to the Timbuktu market. What the hell? Timbuktu isn't getting 40. I'm so confused, man. I don't really understand the trading system of the game. I'm not a very smart man, but I don't know why they're not getting wood. When there's clearly demand for wood. I was sending 40 wood to them, and they were not getting that much wood. What? But why? Why is wood... I have another rebellion to deal with. Oh, God damn it. Who is this? Borgu. No, Borgu. I need to figure out this trade system. So, like, there is a wood export. It should be active, right? Boom. The trade is active. Hold on. So from Niani to Timbuktu, we desire 4.51 to trade, using 5 trade capacity. For some reason, this trade is not active. I wish for this to be not that. Okay, why is this 0? Why is nothing happening? Why is no wood making it to Timbuktu? This I do not understand. Does it take time for the wood to arrive in the market? Is there a delay? Like, does the wood actually have to travel from... Are there wood carts? I don't understand. Yeah, I'm really confused. I'm really confused. But the good news is our country's tax base, the line has gone up, okay? That's important. All right, we made the line go up and the Mali Empire is huge. We've definitely made some big mistakes along the way, but big successes. Look at all that green. Isn't it beautiful? We got beautiful control. We have 35% crown power. We can keep working on that. God, you know, it's at this point when I'm playing like Civ or something, I get to this point, I'm like, oh, I want to start over because I learned so much, but I must keep playing because I need to know what happens even deeper inside your mom. Anyway, I want to thank you guys very much for watching. I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!